My mom explained why she's always been partial to my sister. Okay, so I, 17M, have a twin sister, and if I'm being honest, our mom has always seemed more partial to her. She's always far quicker to give her hugs and compliments, and she seems a bit more emotionally distant to me. I've noticed it my whole life and I've tried not to let it bother me, but things finally came to a head recently. I don't really want to get into the inciting incident that started this. Long story short, we've been looking at colleges and I was upset because it seemed like she wanted my sister to stay local more than she wanted me to, and I told her she loved my sister more than me our whole lives and she didn't give a shit about me, and I'm still not sure why. Today she came in my room and asked if we could talk, and she said there's something she felt it was time to tell me. Then she opened up about her childhood, something she's never done, and explained that her father abused her sexually and she had brothers who abused her too, and it instilled a deep disdain towards men in her. She told me she's been meaning to go to therapy and get help, but she told me it breaks her heart that she ever made me feel like she loved me less than my sister, and she's been trying my whole life to get the fuck over it and grow up, and that it breaks her heart that I haven't had the mom I deserve. She started crying and I hugged her and told her I loved her and she was a great mom and I was lucky to have her. Afterwards I suggested we go out to dinner, just the two of us, and I could pay, and she said she'd take me up on that under the condition she'd pay. So we had a really nice dinner and we talked and I felt I connected with her in a way I hadn't before. I can't really explain it, but I felt like I saw her and she saw me in a different, but good, way. Overall, gonna be honest, I feel terrible because I feel like I made her trauma all about me. She's a wonderful person and I don't know why I'd accuse her of not loving me like she loves my sister. Alls I know is that I'm gonna be better to her and understand she's doing her best, as we all are. That's all. Just figured I'd share somewhere. Edit. Okay, yes, my mom has been making mistakes with not getting treatment and how she's been more partial to my sister than me. However, that doesn't mean she's a horrible mother like a bunch of comments are insinuating. She's a human being in pain and she was able to admit when she did something wrong, and just so everyone knows she did make some calls and has an intake therapy appointment on Wednesday. If I made my mother sound like she hated me or was blatantly awful to me, she doesn't and she isn't. I love her and she loves me and we're going to do better from now on. Relevant comments. Meh, this seems like an excuse. She has disdain for men, but seems to have had married your father and had sex with him enough to make kids. I'd be less forgiving towards her than you have been, to be honest. She kinda ruined your childhood, and now is playing the woe is me card. She didn't marry my father. Hell, I've never even met my father. I know it is late, but I am glad you are talking openly now. It will lead to a wonderful adult relationship if it continues. As a parent, there is a lot of guilt in not getting the treatment you need and seeing it come out as baggage in your kids. I do hope she gets therapy for her trauma. On another note, you may want to go to therapy as well, maybe with your mom, because you have not experienced physical love and it could be impactful on how you interact with your kids when / if the time comes. I didn't get physical love from my father because he was also sexually abused, and as a result, I don't like being touched by people outside of my immediate family, my kids and wife. Maybe it's nothing for you, but keep your eye on it in the future in your familial relationships. Best wishes. Well, I have experienced physical love, just not as much as my sister. But just so you know, my mom gave me a good morning hug this morning and asked what the plan was for today. She's trying one question. Does she have a disdain to your father? How did she develop a casual / romantic relationship with your father with the level of hatred she has for men? I've never met my father. Sorry to hear that and sorry for the late reply. But I'm asking, how were you conceived if she had such level of hatred for disdain for men? She promised she'd tell me that soon. From my understanding, we were an unplanned accidental pregnancy and then our dad left at the last second. Was the disdain before or after she met your dad? That I'm not sure about. We'll figure that out. I just know my whole life she's always had this cynicism towards my male teachers and the dads of the kids who I was friends with as a child. She would even request a woman when someone needed to come to our place to repair something or anything like that. Update. My mom explained to me why she's always been partial to my sister. Hi all, so I made a post last month talking about how my mother opened up to me about why she's always seemed more partial to my sister. I was going to post an update 2 weeks ago, but the Reddit app crashed and I lost the post as I was close to finished with it and I rage quit and lost the drive to write another one. That being said, thank you to some of the people commenting asking for an update. You helped bring the drive back, smiley face. For those of you who haven't read my original post, to make a long story short, my mother was sexually abused her whole childhood by almost every single one of the men in her life, including her father, older brothers, and some older students at school. These horrible experiences ended up instilling a deep disdain towards men inside of my mother, and my whole life I always felt she connected with my sister more than me and made more of an effort to connect with her than me, and I confronted her about it recently. Then, for the first time, she told me what had happened in her childhood to make her more partial to women and agreed to get therapy to help her with her problems. So before I get into my update, a few things. First, people were asking about my father and well, I've never met him. My mother has never told us about him aside from the fact that he left her to mother us all by herself at the last second. Like really, all by herself, we don't have any family members we talk to. Additionally, people accused her of telling me the story to manipulate me and get herself a pass, and that's just not true. If you want to argue she wasn't taking care of herself in the way she should have, then sure, you're not wrong. However, she's not abusive or shitty like that. She's just a person in pain. Now on to the update. She goes to therapy on Monday afternoons and I've been going with her to her sessions and we get dinner afterwards. To be honest, the main reason I started going with her to make sure she goes, and that's been going well. She walked out of one session crying this month, but that's just how it goes sometimes. I've also been seeing eye to eye with my mom in a way I never have, and I've even been getting along better with my sister, who she also ended up telling about her childhood, and my sister has been insanely compassionate towards both me and our mom and sometimes will intentionally leave my mother and I alone so we can bond. And don't make any mistake, she is trying her damnedest to connect with me. She's been asking me questions about my hobbies and engaging in them with me, and I do believe she's a great mom. I'll close this out with an uplifting story from a few nights ago. So my sister and I watched some TV together and were up late, so we started heading to bed but heard our mom in her bed crying. We looked at each other and neither of us knew why she was crying, but I know she's been in pain, so I went inside and without saying anything lied down her bed next to her. She stopped crying and seemed surprised, but then my sister came into the room and also without saying a word got into the bed next to us. My mom started crying again, a good cry this time, and gave us both a hug and said, "I love you guys," and the three of us all went to sleep together. It genuinely made me feel like my sister and I were little kids again. Obviously we had a lot less space than we did back then and were packed tightly together, but it was wonderful and reminded me of the old days when we'd all fall asleep together. Anyway, yeah, that's the update. Thank you to the people who were commenting asking me to post the update and to anyone who left a supportive comment on my last post. It means a lot. Relevant comments. I'm glad to hear your mom is healing little by little. Just want to acknowledge how huge it is for her to not panic when you first went to cuddle with her. She was able to connect with you in a special way that she probably couldn't before. The cynical part of me wonders if she wasn't comfortable until my sister got in the bed. However, I'll still take it as a victory she trusted me enough to fall asleep with me in that situation. Hell yeah, I'm happy for you, sister, and mom. Let the healing begin. Did you decide on a college? I'm not smart enough for some of the big schools like my sister is. One of the reasons I thought my mom loved her more than me, and to be honest I've come to realize that goddamn, community college is seriously underutilized, so I'm probably gonna stay local. Also, a lot of the stuff I love relating to my hobbies is here, so that makes it a pretty appealing option. I'm not smart enough for the big schools like my sister is. Community college is a great opportunity. My child's grades through high school were average. They enrolled in community college. After 2 years, they decided school is cool. With 2 associate's degrees earned, they were accepted and enrolled in a state college, close to home. Bachelor's degree acquired. Now after applying for a master's program, they've been accepted by 13 different schools. So you never know. OP. Please don't think that you're not smart enough. Some folks take a little longer to connect all the dots of life, and receive what school offers. Also, good on you for sticking with your hobbies. One of the managers at my job told me if he could do it all over again, he'd go to community college then transfer. It's so much cheaper too, given what she went through. Mom's side and dad's side could be the same side. And oh, our mom has assured us this is not the case. I thought of it and asked her, and she got pregnant with us after she left home when she turned 18. OP then posted this on the last Boru post. Sigh. These comments sum up everything I hate about Reddit. I see a lot of comments creating a narrative and making assumptions based on what I shared, such as me not getting my own therapy or my sister and I being the product of rape. We're taking it one step at a time, and yes, I am receiving my own therapy despite the assumptions of so many commenters. Additionally, yes, I am battling some complicated feelings of my own with being angry at her for waiting so long to get help and thinking that was okay, but I'm saving those feelings for the therapy office until I'm ready to talk to my mom about it. Even though you may not be wrong that she was being a bad mom for going so long without therapy, there is absolutely no need to get angry on my behalf. You can interpret my defensiveness as me not wanting to admit that what has been said is true, but I just really don't care for people on the internet making assumptions about me and my family based on one snapshot I decided to share. To the person who shared this is not all directed at you, and feel free to keep the post up. Thank you for sharing my post as well as this. 17 and she's just learning his hobbies is the saddest part. She's had his entire life to learn who he is and apparently doesn't know the most basic things that make him happy. Okay, she's known all about my hobbies for my whole life. She was the one who helped me find them. We're just using them to bond. Update. Mom explained why she's always been partial to my sister, so I figured I'd post another update. I've made posts about my mother who explained to me how she was sexually abused by all the men in her childhood, which is why she's always seen partial to my twin sister, and you can just go to my post history to see the full story because I don't particularly care to summarize it again. This one's not as happy. Ever since I first confronted her about it, I've had this sense of resentment towards her I've been trying to compartmentalize and deal with later, or at least in my own therapy sessions. As of late it's been getting harder to ignore them, and over the weekend I lost my temper and yelled at her asking why she thought it was okay to wait so long to get help and how she probably wouldn't have done anything if I didn't call her out for her bullshit. She heard me out and started to cry and said the only thing she can say is I'm right and I've always deserved a mom who would outwardly love me as much as my sister, and it breaks her heart I didn't get that mother, and all she can say is she's sorry and hopes I can forgive her someday. I didn't say anything in return and just left the house. I haven't confronted her since and I know she feels bad and the shitty part of me feels good about that, but I know she needs all the support she can get, so it's just a shitty situation all around. This is probably above Reddit's pay grade, but I figured I'd post it anyway. Relevant comments. Have you had the chance to talk to someone about it? I think this is something you'll feel for a long time. If you don't talk to someone about it, it might affect other parts of your life. Yeah, I'm seeing a therapist. She cried. Her tears are to make you feel guilty for calling her out. Until she shows you an improvement in her treatment to you, don't fall for the tears. For what it's worth, she has shown an improvement over the last few months. Like I'm a big movie buff and she's been asking to watch movies with me a lot as of late, which she didn't do before, and she's making more of an effort to talk to me about my day in school and even the girl I've been talking to. Maybe she didn't realize just how much her actions were hurting me and is trying to do what she can to fix it. She doesn't need support. She needs to end the pity party and start supporting the son she has neglected all this time and not keep doing the same thing. Part of me wants to agree with you, but she is in a lot of pain. She is the parent. As a parent she needs to suck it up and be a fucking parent. She hasn't your entire life. You know what, for the time being I'm going to agree with you. I'm not feeling compassionate right now. Update. My mom explained why she's always been partial to my sister. I was thinking today and randomly remembered a year ago. I, 18M, posted about me telling my mom that she's obviously always loved my twin sister more than me, and then he explaining how she grew up in a house with a father and brothers who regularly sexually assaulted and raped her, and she projected that disdain towards men onto me. Since then, my mother, my sister, and I have been seeing our own individual therapists and we've had several group sessions together. So today, my sister is away at college and I stayed local and go to community college. Something, I think, I mentioned in my old post was my mom was pushing me to go away to school and encouraging my sister to stay local. Funny how that happens. Anyway, my sister is coming back home this week for the holidays, but I've honestly really enjoyed it here with my mom. She's been making an effort lately to engage with me with the things like passionate about, and I'm a big movie fan, so I've been showing her my favorite movies over the past few months. She's made an insane amount of progress as well and I'm so proud of her, and we have a wonderful relationship. It certainly wasn't always pretty over the past year, and even though the work isn't always easy, the payoff is certainly worth it. So yeah, we're doing a lot better than we were when I made that original post last year. Relevant comments. I am happy that your life and your relationships are improving, but I can't help but to feel that if a future parent has that much baggage, they should resolve it before having children or refrain from having them. It is unfair to the child. Something I forgot to put in the post, she told us a little bit about the circumstances around our birth. It wasn't as awful as I was dreading, but long story short, we were unplanned and it sounds like she was more or less bullied into bringing us to term. This is a sweet update. Thank you for taking the time to help your mom feel more comfortable, and I'm happy she took the time to understand she was hurting me. Team effort. I'm so glad to hear you guys are doing better. If you want any good Christmas movie recs, Klaus on Netflix is a cute one. One of my online friends recommended this to me. I've been trying to stay away from anything involving violence towards women or anything just overly violent for my mom's sake, so this would be a good one to watch. Stories. Number 2, AITJ for not punishing my son because he doesn't want to be around his sister who constantly snitches on him. I, 38M, have 2 kids, Mark, 13M, and Lily, 11F. To give some context, Lily is really spoiled by my wife, Sarah, 37F. Ever since Lily was little, Sarah has been overly indulgent with her, letting her stay up late, buying her whatever she wants, and pretty much excusing all of her behavior, no matter what. It's made Lily feel entitled, especially when it comes to Mark. She doesn't have much respect for his privacy and constantly tattles on him for the smallest things, knowing her mom will take her side. At first, it was small stuff, Mark didn't make his bed, or Mark stayed up too late. But over time, it escalated. She started reporting anything that seemed even a little bit off. Mark didn't say hi to me when he got home, or Mark left his shoes in the hallway. It's like Lily has a mental list of everything Mark does wrong, and no matter how trivial, she'll run straight to Sarah to tell on him. Mark is 13 and, like most teens, values his privacy and independence. He spends time with his friends and is starting to navigate more personal parts of his life. But Lily, with her constant monitoring, makes it impossible for him to have any space. There's no escaping it. And the real breaking point for Mark came when Lily somehow found out about his crush on a girl at school. I honestly don't know how she found out. Mark didn't tell her, and he definitely didn't want her to know. He was on the phone with a friend, but Lily must have overheard something. The next thing he knew, Lily was making comments about it, like, "So, you like that girl, huh?" Mark was mortified. He hadn't shared that with anyone, let alone his 11-year-old sister. And then, of course, Lily went around telling all their friends at school. Mark felt completely humiliated. When Mark tried to talk to Sarah about it, she dismissed his feelings, telling him to stop being dramatic. That's when Mark decided he needed space. He couldn't take it anymore. So, he started avoiding Lily as much as possible. The issue really came to a head the other day. I came home from work and saw Mark sitting on the couch with Lily. They were watching a show, and I thought maybe they were getting along. But then I realized they were watching a show Lily liked, not one they both enjoyed. Lily was bossing Mark around about how he should be watching it or how he was sitting too far from the TV. Mark got frustrated and stormed off to his room. Lily, of course, immediately started crying, but it was so obviously fake. I could see right through it. She ran to Sarah, saying Mark was being mean to her, and that's when Sarah went upstairs to talk to Mark. I stopped her before she could go up, telling her I'd handle it. I went upstairs to check on Mark, and he finally opened up to me. He told me that it wasn't just about the show, it was everything. He couldn't trust Lily anymore because of her constant snitching and invading his privacy. He told me he was tired of being made to feel like he was in the wrong, no matter what he did. The final straw was Lily outing his crush to everyone at school. He said he couldn't have any peace or privacy when she was always watching him and reporting back to Sarah. Now, Mark is refusing to be around Lily. He's 13, and he deserves to have some space. But Sarah is pushing me to punish him for ignoring her, saying he's being mean to Lily by not spending time with her. She's even giving me the silent treatment now. She's upset that I'm not backing her up on this and that I'm not punishing Mark for not getting along with Lily. Every time I try to talk to her, she shuts down, won't engage, and just gives me the cold shoulder. Honestly, I'm feeling caught in the middle. I understand Sarah wants them to get along, but I don't think Mark should be forced to spend time with Lily if it's just going to be another situation where she invades his privacy and tattles on him. He needs boundaries, and he needs to be able to have a private life, especially as a teenager. But it feels like Sarah doesn't see it that way. She thinks I'm being too lenient with Mark and not holding him accountable. So, AITJ for not punishing my son for wanting space from his sister, especially after she found out about his crush and made it public, and after my wife started giving me the silent treatment. TLDR, my 13-year-old son, Mark, is constantly being tattled on by his 11-year-old sister, Lily, who's spoiled by my wife, Sarah. Lily invaded Mark's privacy by telling everyone about his crush, and now Mark is avoiding her. Sarah is upset, thinks I should punish Mark for not getting along with Lily, and is giving me the silent treatment. I don't think Mark should be punished for wanting space, but Sarah insists he's being mean to her. AITJ for not punishing him. Update. First, I want to thank everyone again for your comments, even the harsh ones. They made me take a long, hard look at this situation and realize just how much it's been affecting Mark and our family as a whole. I decided to have a serious conversation with Sarah about her favoritism toward Lily and how it's been hurting Mark. I explained how dismissing Mark's feelings and excusing Lily's behavior has created a toxic environment where Mark feels unsupported and disrespected. I brought up specific examples, like Lily outing his crush and how it humiliated him, and her constant tattling that makes him feel like he has no privacy. Unfortunately, the conversation didn't go as I hoped. Sarah completely denied showing favoritism and instead started doubling down, saying that Mark was just being a bad child and that his avoidance of Lily was mean and immature. She kept defending her actions, saying she's only trying to keep the peace and make them get along, but it was clear she wasn't willing to acknowledge her role in the problem. No matter how much I tried to stay calm and explain where I was coming from, she refused to see my point of view. Eventually, I realized we weren't getting anywhere, and I didn't want the conversation to escalate into a fight. So, I left the room and went upstairs to talk to Mark instead. When I got to Mark's room, I sat down with him and told him the truth, that I love him and that I know things have been unfair to him. I admitted that I haven't done enough to protect him from the situation with his mom and sister, and I promised him that I'm going to do better. I told him I see how much he's been hurting and that his feelings are valid, even if not everyone in the house is acknowledging them right now. Mark seemed surprised but relieved. He told me how much it's been weighing on him and how alone he's felt lately. It broke my heart to hear how much he's been holding in, but I reassured him that he's not alone and that I'm in his corner. I told him I'd work on fixing the issues with Sarah and Lily, but in the meantime, I'm going to make sure he feels supported and respected. I know this is only the beginning, and it's going to take time and effort to fix what's been broken. But I refuse to let Mark feel like he's second best in his own home anymore. He deserves better, and I'm committed to giving him that. Stories number 3. Aita for being upset with my husband for saying he would choose his deceased wife over me. My 34F husband, 37M, was married once before me. She was his high school sweetheart. They started dating their junior year, survived long distance during college, and got married when they were both 23 very shortly after graduating college. She passed away unexpectedly at age 26 from an aneurysm, and it obviously devastated him, especially because they were extremely young. They never had children. He contemplated remarrying because he was so heartbroken, but we ended up meeting about 4 years after that. We got married when I was 31 and he was 34 and have 2 children. Last night, we were at a friend potluck gathering. Everything was going well until one of our friends brought up a new topic that had to do with relationships. She is newly divorced, so it was about her divorce. Others were chiming in with past relationships from high school, college, etc. I had said I never thought I would get married because my luck with men has always been terrible until I met my husband, and I said I felt very lucky to have met him. After a little while longer, my husband brings up his deceased wife. Everyone knows he was married before me and that she passed. He was talking about her and then drops a bomb and goes, if she walked through that front door right now, I'd pick up where we left off. If I am being honest, it felt like someone put my heart into a blender and punched me in the gut as hard as they could. Everyone in the room could sense the awkwardness that followed. To avoid making a scene, I just laughed it off, even though I think it was still obvious that it hurt me. I just felt that if you still felt that way, then why are we married? I've never asked him to get over his wife. I have never had a deceased spouse or even a deceased partner, so I am unsure how that feels, but I would never say that in front of my new spouse. After the gathering, we left and I did not speak to him the entire car ride home or barely the entire night. I did tell him that what he said hurt my feelings deeply and that we could talk in the morning once I've calmed down, because I didn't want to say something mean to him. I ended up sleeping on the couch because he would not leave me alone. It's now the next morning and I barely slept. He is still sleeping. I'm not really sure what to say or what he will say. Comments, yes. Like I said, I would never ask him to get over her or forget her. She died. Realistically, if she hadn't, they could still be together with a family. But I would have kept that thought to myself. If husband is in counseling, he did for a short time, but he doesn't really talk about her or that time very much. So I'm not too sure for how long or if he was ever consistent with it. He started off by saying how he had never been in a serious relationship until his first wife. Like he'd had little relationships in middle school and early high school, but she was the first one he'd ever felt serious about. Then said what he said. Everything was fine until he said what he said. I'm also not opposed to him speaking about her. We've spoken about her before. He mostly just kept asking if we could talk and that he did not mean to say it. I'm guessing it just slipped out and he was not thinking. I am not sure. I honestly feel very nauseous. We both have remote jobs, so we're home together all day most of the time. I'm not necessarily considering splitting. What to think honestly. I would like for him to have individual counseling and maybe we could do something together. I know that he doesn't not love me, but you also would not say that I'm front of someone you cared about. I also didn't think about the romanticizing what could have been. That does make a lot of sense. Counseling could help. This has replayed over and over in my head all night. It's odd, impossible, but if it were possible, then yeah, he would. I think he does understand at least a little bit. But he cannot take back what was said. Yeah, that will be my suggestion. Maybe regular counseling for him and then couples for us once a week. But that will be difficult with figuring out what to do with the kids because we already pay a decent amount for daycare. No one was drinking heavily because we all had driven there. Maybe some people would think he was drunk. I'm not too sure what happened. Yes, I am worried about our talk. He should be waking up soon. I'm hoping to make it clear how much I was hurt, that I want counseling, and to just talk things out. I've never had anything like this happen to me before. I'm getting so many comments and trying to read them all because I am nervous. We've honestly never even had a blow-out argument before. Small disagreements or bickering. I do not want this to turn into that. I am scared. Yes, I've acknowledged that the only reason why I am together is because she is gone. That is obvious, and anyone with a brain would piece that together quickly. It's just what he said was mean. He could have kept that to himself. I would never say something like that to him or in front of him, even if I felt it. Yes. My friends, the ones that were there, have texted me and I have not responded. I don't want to. I am embarrassed. I will not tell anyone else because that's between us, but I can't promise they won't tell even if they say. I typically do forgive. I've forgiven for things 10x worse than this. But I could never forget. Hopefully this can be at least semi-repaired. Edit. I've forgiven others for worse things. This is the worst thing my husband has done said. Other people have done me worse and I've forgiven them. He said lovely things about her before. So have I. She was a very beautiful woman. Very smart as well. She was a nurse in the ICU, which is interesting because I wanted to be a nurse before I went into the field I'm in now. I don't mind him talking about her or reminiscing. But he hurt my feelings saying something he should have never said aloud, thinking that isn't the issue because I would have never known for sure. I've responded to everyone that texted me, which was everyone there that has my number. 6 people. They've all basically said the same thing. They can't believe he said that, they feel bad for me, asking if everything is okay, what he said was not okay, etc. One of his friends messaged me on Facebook apologizing for not stepping in when it happened and that he would speak to my husband the next time they saw each other. They've been friends since college and he knew his first wife. I did not say anything after it happened because I was shocked, hurt, confused, and embarrassed. It came out of left field. I also don't think anyone was convinced I was fine with it because the laugh came out very awkward and dry and everyone kept looking at us. I was also quiet for the rest of the night. I am a huge chatterbox. I also did not speak with him once we returned home because I was not sure how to communicate what I was feeling without saying something I did not mean, so I kept my mouth shut until I could process my feelings. It's also easier to speak with internet strangers because I'm not married to the people commenting. I'm just venting here. What I say here doesn't matter in my marriage. Lastly, lack of details because I didn't want this to be too long. And some people just like when you get to the point and only include important details, but because I'm new to this app, I didn't know how much was enough, if that makes sense. I knew that if I opened my mouth to speak, it would not be good. I knew that then and when we got home. So I did not open it until I knew that I could continue in a calm and collected manner. It's what I teach my kids. We do eat lunch together at home. He breaks about an hour after me, so I eat in the office with him and we chat and then we eat dinner together as a family. We do try date nights maybe twice a month. It's usually dinner and then we agree on something fun after. I know it isn't much, but we've got 2 small kids. I wish we could have planned us time a little better, and our intimacy is pretty average. About 3 sometimes 4 times a week, and it is not poor quality. If anyone was going to ask, grinning face with sweat, not sure if anyone will see this. But I have to get my day started. My husband is awake and we spoke for about 2 minutes. We will be speaking after I drop our son off at daycare and after he has this Zoom meeting. Please wish me luck. Update. This may be a long one. I also tried to reply to as many comments as I could, but they were flooding in and I got a bit overwhelmed. May still try to read and reply to them. Many brought me to joyous and grateful tears. Also, alcohol was not involved in the sense that he wasn't drunk. My husband is 6 feet 3 inches and almost 250 pounds. He had eaten quite a bit and had 1 beer. He was practically sober anyway. We talked. I asked him to let me go first and to not interrupt. He doesn't usually interrupt anyway. This isn't verbatim, just a rough sketch of how things went. I also included points some of you made. Without mentioning I posted about this, of course, I just want to say that I do not hate you for what you said. I understand where you were coming from. She died and it was something neither of you saw coming. I could never ask you to get over her or to forget her because I know how much you loved her. She was your first love. I do understand that if she hadn't passed, we likely would not be together and you too likely would be. I have always understood this. But to say what you said hurt my feelings and embarrassed me, and even though her coming back from the dead is impossible, if it were, you would leave me and the children? It was probably one of the worst things anyone has ever said to me. It is clear your feelings about her are still raw and it still hurts and I want you to get counseling and I want couples counseling very very soon. He then apologized profusely. Teared up and said how he did not mean to hurt me and embarrass me in front of our friends. He basically said that he thought about it before he went to sleep and came to the realization that he should have kept it to himself. I mean, I can't be angry for what he thinks. He loved her and she died. His feelings are also valid here. Also said that he would never leave me and the children and that what he said was just a poorly thought out and poorly worded statement. That he was not thinking clearly and when he said it, he immediately felt that maybe it came out wrong. I asked him how he would feel if I said that to him. He says, yeah. It's bad. I know, I shouldn't have said it. I wouldn't be happy. I know you aren't happy. I should have apologized in front of everyone as soon as I said it or not have said it at all. I then asked him to think of the children and said, it's like you saying, hey, children's names, if my dead wife walked through the door, I'd pack my bags and never speak to you guys again, and then it really got uncomfy. After some silence, I had no idea what to say after that. He asked me if I wanted to divorce. So I asked him why he would think I would want a divorce just to see what he would say. He says he doesn't know. I didn't answer his question and said we needed to look into counseling. That he needed to get counseling for himself and that we would go to couples counseling. And if the answer is no, I am not interested in moving forward. This isn't 100% about the comment anymore. I need to know if he is willing to make the necessary changes and put in the work to fix what he messed up. Because if he were to dismiss my feelings or not want counseling, it means he doesn't think this was that serious and that he may not take me seriously. I also said this to him. Some of the comments also told me to take the kids elsewhere. I agreed with this because it would be difficult to get through this while also parenting. I've got a very young daughter and a son that is a toddler. They are currently with my parents for the weekend and I'll be getting them Sunday night, so this gives us time to really work. He suggested he sleep on the couch instead of me. I have nowhere else to go. I haven't told my parents because I really would like to keep this between me and him as much as possible. Family and friends jump to judge too fast and sometimes offer extreme and harmful advice and it's also embarrassing. Luckily we both have very good insurance that will help with counseling. I told him that it seems like whatever counseling he got after her death was not enough and that he was not consistent with it like he should have been. With trauma like that, I personally would have been in counseling for years before I even considered remarrying. He agreed. He was only in it for about a year and then stopped once he moved away from his hometown. Never got back into it. He also agreed to the individual and couples counseling. Kept apologizing. Kept telling me he loved me all day. It was also so difficult to be around him because he kept looking at me. I couldn't think. It was like he would try to say something and then he would just stare and not say anything. With the kids gone, there's nothing to really do except talk, so we talked again right before dinner time. He asked me if I wanted him to cook or buy something. I still was not hungry to be honest, so I just told him he could pick something up for himself and that I wasn't hungry and that prompted the second discussion. Realized he must feel very bad because he noticed I hadn't really eaten much all day. Kept asking me to eat. I wasn't sulking too bad or anything, just doing my usual tasks, but not speaking or eating as much and because we're home together all day, he noticed this. Asked me one more time to please eat dinner with him, so I agreed. During dinner, he told me that he looked for counselors himself and wanted me to see if I thought they were okay enough and that he would keep looking. Last stretch. After all of that, I told him that we can't really predict anything until we've met with therapists. I don't want him to keep saying sorry. I want work and change. And then maybe we can move forward, but this is the first step. I don't want to just leave him. I am also not saying divorce is off of the table. I think he is still hurting from her death and his judgment is very very clouded. If he didn't love me, I doubt he would have apologized so many times and looked for counselors on his own. A man that doesn't love me probably would have made me look or rejected going altogether. Many people were suggesting this. I do not think he doesn't love me. Thought of this myself. Cried about it. Thought of my children. Cried more. I'm not staying for the kids, I'm staying because I want to at least try to fix. If it cannot be fixed, then at least I tried. We were also very close. Some people were asking how close we were prior to marriage, I guess as a way to gauge the difference between their relationship and our relationship. Maybe to see if he settled. He was always very romantic, caring, and sweet to me. We've never yelled at each other. When we first started dating, he would plan dates, surprise me, brag about me to his friends. So that's why I am very confused on why he would blurt that. Unless it was just very poor brain and mouth coordination. I also told him that I may get a counselor for myself. I don't think I need one. Someone suggested this, but I think he needs it more than I do. And because insurance companies are getting shittier by the year, 3 counseling bills may be pushing it. Ick. If I do get one, it's because I don't want to potentially resent him or doubt myself. Some people were making attempts to make me doubt myself. Some people in the comments were very nasty to me. I appreciate Reddit hiding comments with many downvotes as they may be mean, but I couldn't help but click. Some of you are very mean and very nasty individuals, and I hope you find happiness one day. There could be another update in the future. Not opposed to making one. Thank you all for your kind words and support. I've also responded to everyone that texted me, which was everyone there at the potluck that has my number. 3 people, there were 9 people there not including us. They've all basically said the same thing. They can't believe he said that, they feel bad for me, asking if everything is okay, what he said was not okay, etc. He showed me some of the texts with him and his friends, and some made me cry with how kind they were being towards me. Basically telling him he wasn't necessarily wrong for thinking that, but wrong for saying it. I told him I loved him as well. And I have never not loved him even for a second, and that I wasn't angry with him and didn't want him to, I guess, suffer, for what he said. But I was just hurt and needed him to know that it did hurt me and him to respond how he saw fit, and we'd go from there. That is all for now. I could possibly answer more questions here. If you have any, I tried to answer some of the more frequently asked ones that I saw. Again, sorry for this being so lengthy. Have a nice weekend everyone, and thank you again. Comments: we didn't fight. I ate dinner with him. He suggested he sleep on the couch. I did not. I slept on the couch first. No one is making him feel bad. I already told him I loved him deeply and have asked him to stop apologizing because I know he is sorry about divorce. No, he asked me if I wanted one and I asked him why he would think I wanted one and he could not give me an answer. Maybe I didn't make that clear enough. My apologies. I also do not know what fixed looks like. I just want therapy and I want him to understand why it was hurtful. He does. So maybe we are closer to a fix than I initially thought. Have no clue. He told me that he would never want to make me feel like that again and wants to take the steps to make sure I do not go read the original post and then actually read this one. I never compared. For the love of God, stop commenting when you haven't read and properly comprehend what you read. Your grades in school must have been absolute shit. I didn't want the kids around while we talked about it. My daughter is old enough to understand things that are said, and I wanted us to pay 100% attention to one another, and now have to worry about the kids interrupting their relationship hadn't gotten difficult. I had friends in long distance. They did not argue like regular couples because there was nothing to argue about. They were never together, so him being with her through college was only hard because of the distance. Before that, they were too young to experience real relationship struggles. And after, they were not married long enough to deal with challenges. I'm not sure if I included this, I'm getting a bit sleepy. But he did say he regretted saying what he said to me and that he regretted how he made me feel. This will get lost in the comments, but I hope many see it. I am very tired. I got barely any sleep last night. So I'm going to bed pretty soon. I've been reading comments all day. I have not been on my phone this much in years. I thank everyone for their kind words and advice. Much of the advice was genuine and well thought out, just like much of it was not that great. I will read some more and respond some more, but I'm dozing off a bit. Have a good night and a great weekend. And I feel like my husband may have moved on too fast. Therapy for much longer or a support group would have greatly helped him. I am okay for right now. It still feels like a dream, I guess, but he has been trying to make up for it all day. And I've told him that he doesn't need to. I know he's sorry. He said it a million times and he keeps checking in on me, called me when he was out getting food and a few things from the grocery. He never does unless he forgot what he was supposed to be ordering. He's not a texter, and lastly, my niece posts stuff like that all the time. But luckily my husband agreed to therapy. He already went on his own the first time. Granted he did not finish, but him going on his own the first time is better than what a lot of men do these days. They unfortunately think it makes them weak when it doesn't. Makes you strong, in my opinion. Admitting you need help and going to get that help takes a lot of courage. Stopping counseling was not the smartest move. I did ask him if anyone encouraged him to stay in and he said no. Don't think he had as much support as he led me to believe. Maybe they were there for him, but not really there for him. I would have encouraged my family member to keep going. Maybe would have taken them a few times and then out to lunch after as a treat. Stories number 4. My husband's open marriage suggestion backfired on him. My husband, Leo, 34M, and I, 30F, have been together for 7 years, married for 4 of them. We don't have any kids and we don't intend to. 2 years ago, Leo asked me for an open marriage. I was devastated at the time. I couldn't understand why he didn't just want me. I couldn't even comprehend the idea of sharing him either. He gave me the same song and dance a lot of men give their spouses, swore up and down that he loved me. I just wasn't fulfilling his needs. He needed more than what I could give. It was just to spice up our life. It was just sex, etc., etc. I did ask if there was someone else. He said no. To this day, I'm still not sure if I believed him. But at the time, I was angry and hurt and said no. He pestered me to change my mind for a week before giving me an ultimatum: open marriage or divorce. I chose the open marriage. I just couldn't bear the thought of him leaving me at the time. We have rules. We can't bring any partners home. We have to get tested for STD every 3 months. 1 weekend out of the month must be left free for us time. Any money we spend on / with our partners must come from our personal accounts. I didn't partake in the open marriage myself for the first 3 months. Leo obviously did right away. He seemed to be gone or out late almost all the time, but he always acted so happy and loving towards me while I felt like I was dying inside. It killed me to think he was sleeping with other women, and I felt so lonely and unattractive and not good enough. I told my sister, Katie, 26F, and a few close friends everything. Katie told me to just play his game and be part of the open marriage too. If he can sleep around, so could I. I honestly didn't have much confidence in myself at the time. I'm a bit overweight and I've never considered myself conventionally pretty. I was afraid this would just humiliate me further. Katie and my best friend Jessie, 30F, set up my online dating profiles for me. I got so many matches that it was overwhelming. When I told Leo, he was surprised, but told me to do whatever I thought was best. Jessie helped me choose my first date, and I actually had a great time. He didn't pressure me for sex and took me out to drinks and dinner. We did have sex eventually, but it was all just casual and we didn't see each other after a couple months of casual dating. That first guy really made me feel more confident in myself. So I kept going on dates with men. A lot of them wanted to treat me, so I didn't have to spend much of my own money. Not only that, but some of the men have given me the best sex I've ever had in my life. Almost like the kind of sex you read in romance novels. It's been amazing. I am currently seeing 2 different men, alongside Leo. One, Mark, 38M, is more of a steady boyfriend I've been with for about 6 months, and the one, Steven, 25M, is very casual, mostly just hanging out and sex. They know about my open marriage / other relationships and are fine with it. My husband has not been so lucky. In the beginning, he definitely was. He was always out and about and didn't seem to care even when I started dating too. But now he just complains a lot and hasn't been going out much. He whines about how he's usually the one spending money. A lot of the women he tries to be with want an emotional connection before sex. He often wants to be with younger women, but they want younger men. He's also been upset that I go out with random guys so often while he's at home alone all the time. He hasn't asked to close the marriage yet, but I feel like he will soon. He keeps saying he misses us and wants to spend more time together. He tried to initiate sex a lot more too. He wants to go on dates and go on vacations and all that stuff more and more, and he gets upset when I tell him I can't because I've already scheduled to do stuff with my partners, mostly Mark. Honestly, I don't think I love Leo anymore. I care about him, but I just don't love him. I'm not saying I love Mark or Steven, but I honestly feel closer to Mark nowadays than I do Leo. Mark makes me feel comfortable and safe, and I love spending time with him more than my own husband. Steven is funny and sweet and really good at sex. Katie and Jessie have been wanting me to divorce for a year now, but I was afraid of hurting him and thought I still loved him. But I think my love for him died when he asked for this open marriage in the first place. Seeing him get all pissy about it now just because he's not benefiting from it is also a turnoff for me too, but I don't know if divorce is the best option. I still care about him and I still don't want to hurt him. Maybe if he finally asks to close the marriage, we can talk about it then. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, divorce. You're happier without him. He would only want to close the marriage because he can't get laid, not that he only loves you. Reply, we've just been together for so long that the idea of him not being there feels weird. Which sounds stupid since I have 2 other partners, so it's not like I'll be lonely. But Leo was a part of my life for so long that for him to not be there just doesn't feel right. But you're probably right. Her husband dismissing her feelings regarding the open marriage. Reply, I really do think Leo does love me, in his own way. Even when he was more active in the open marriage, he still made time for me and still did a lot with him/for me. But you're probably right on the divorce. Commenter 2, part of the issue is the main relationship is supposed to be the important one, so the whole one weekend a month for us time wasn't enough. Reply, I actually did argue that in the beginning, but he insisted that he needed to keep his weekends free. He did spend a lot of time at home during the weekdays, so in his mind, that made up for it. Commenter 3, what if he finds evidence of your open marriage and frames you as a cheater and then brings you to the cleaners? At this point, I wouldn't trust Leo. What you're experiencing is normalcy, you're used to his presence in your life. But how long are you going to live like this? Reply, Jesse had the same train of thought of you and actually took screenshots of his dating profiles during the beginning of the open marriage. She also told me to save screenshots of any texts we had about the open marriage. I don't think Leo would do that, but I also didn't think he'd ever ask for an open marriage, so what do I know? Update 1, Hi everyone. I got so many comments and messages on my last post, which got deleted for some reason, that I was a bit overwhelmed. Especially when a lot of you kept saying the same thing, divorce, divorce, divorce. But, the thing is, I think a part of me does still loves my husband. I know in my last post that I didn't think I loved him anymore, but I can't just forget about the things that I do love. I love when he sings in the shower. I love when he laughs so hard, he snorts. I love when he kisses my forehead when I've had a bad day. I love when he holds my hand when he watch TV together. Leo has done a lot of shitty things, but he really isn't the big asshole people think. Maybe that was my fault. But even if I do still love him, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. I care about him, a part of me does still love him, but you all were right, I should have just divorced him when he gave me that ultimatum in the first place. This past Saturday, we had the big talk. I initiated it, but he didn't seem too surprised. I just told him that I noticed he didn't seem to like me going out with Mark or Steven and asked if there was a problem. He said there was. But he didn't ask me to close the marriage. He just asked me if I still loved him. I said something like, not like I used to. He broke down crying, which made me cry. I guess he had known for a while that I wasn't in love anymore, but he had hoped he could win me back if he funneled all of his energy into me. I was honest and told him that during those first 3 months of our open marriage, I think my love for him died and I just couldn't get it back. I did tell him that I still cared about him and that I did love him, but it's not the same as it was. He asked if I loved Mark or Steven, and I said no. I like being with them and I care about them a lot, but I can't say I'm in love with either of them. I also finally asked him why he wanted the open marriage in the first place. A lot of you in the comments said he already had someone lined up and you were right. He had someone at work he was interested in and she wanted him too. The open marriage was just to get permission. He honestly never expected me to also get my own partners because of how unconfident I was, but he didn't want to stop me either because he thought nothing would come of it. He didn't really like me seeing other men, but he knew it wouldn't have been fair to tell me no when I gave him permission first. I guess Mark and Steven made him insecure because I was spending so much time with them on a regular basis. The open marriage was just sex on the side for him, he only did hookups and they never lasted long. He genuinely always just loved only me. But he thought I was falling in love with my partners and he was losing me and wanted to win me back. We cried a lot and talked a lot. We've decided to get a divorce. Since the house is in his name, I'm going to move out and live with Katie for a while. He told me I didn't have to and I could stay until the divorce was finalized, but I just can't. It's too hard to even look at him sometimes. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I thought I would be relieved or sad, but I'm just tired. I wish I could have been like you all wanted me to be, clapping back or being sarcastic and snarky or rubbing it in his face, but I don't feel like I've won anything. I just feel lost. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm wondering if that maybe the other woman ended it so now he was back to what he was comfortable with, his wife. He went and had his fun and when that died out, he was not left with a wife waiting for him at home. Reply, he and his coworker were only sleeping together for maybe a month. She fulfilled his kinks that I never liked indulging in. That's why he was with most of his partners, because I wasn't interested in his kinks. Commenter 2, he stepped out of this marriage first and tried to have his cake and eat it too. The thing with open marriages is that you can never count on how emotions will change. Sex is a very intimate action and many people will develop emotional connections, those connections come at a price. He placed a bet and he lost. At least he's man enough to acknowledge it and own up to it. There is no easy answer OP, I wish you healing reply, thank you. Leo just thought the open marriage would be a way for him to get all of his kinks he couldn't do with me, because I wasn't into it. He knew how unconfident I was, which wasn't because of him. A lot of people seem to think that he eroded my self-esteem but he didn't. We can thank my mother for that, but that's a whole other can of worms, so he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. Commenter 3, so he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. So basically while he asked for a mutually open marriage he expected it to be only his side open and then got hurt that reality didn't meet his expectations. Reply, Leo admitted that he did only expected his side to be open. He was never going to stop me from opening my side, but like I said, he didn't think I would. To be honest, I don't think I would have either if it wasn't for Jesse and Katie pushing me and making profiles for me. Update 2 Hey, it's been a while. It feels like both lot and nothing has happened. I still have a lot of feelings, but I'm also just really tired. Leo and I are still in the middle of our divorce. It's been as amicable as a divorce can be. Since we mutually agreed to it and we had prenup, it's been pretty easy splitting everything else 50-50ths. My lawyer says I should be divorced by the end of the year. Leo is insistent on giving me alimony, but I'm not really interested. Thanks to a lot of people making me think about Leo's explanation for the open marriage, I did approach him about it again and asked him to be 100% honest with me about that girl from work. He admitted there was more to it than he admitted. This is what he explained to me, and I have decided to believe him. Even if he's lying, it doesn't really matter anymore since we're getting divorced. I also just have little energy to care about the details at this point. According to him, this is the timeline. He was posting on Reddit about his kinks for advice and such, which I did know about beforehand. He was getting messages from this one user and they just kept talking back and forth. He mentions my name to the user in a conversation, which he let me read. During his lunch break, his coworker, I'll call her Mary, approaches him and asks if he uses Reddit and asks about his handle. He confirms. And then Mary tells her he's the user he's been talking to. They start talking more and more in real life as friends and eventually start talking through IG. He also showed me these conversations. The conversations were mostly just memes and jokes with occasional flirts/mentioning of kinks. At one point, she says it's too bad he's not single. This is when he decided to demand the open marriage, because Mary was clearly into him and into the same kinks, and she could sexually satisfy him since I was unable to. That's how he basically said it, anyway. Truth be told, we did have some bed difficulties before the open marriage was brought up. I'm very vanilla, and he discovered his kinks after we were married. I tried them all for him, but I just couldn't get into it and he didn't like seeing me struggle, so he didn't try to bring them into the bedroom again after it was obvious I didn't like it. So we did have sexual compatibility issues. Maybe we were doomed to fail even without the open marriage ultimatum. Our families, outside of my sister, were shocked when we told everyone we were getting a divorce. They always thought we were so happy and in love. My mom blames me, which I expected, but it still hurts. They don't know about the open marriage, and Leo and I plan to keep it that way. I think he is ashamed to tell them. I am too, if I'm being honest. I really thought Leo was the love on my life. He was my first for almost everything. I said we were together for 7 years, but we were friends since college. I've known him for nearly 12 years, and we're about to become strangers soon. I still mourn my marriage, even though Katie and Jesse keep telling me this is for the best. They're both definitely thrilled, they don't hide it, but they also know this has been a weird time for me. I just don't know how to feel. I thought I would feel free or relieved or heartbroken or something, but I just feel weird. Like I lost a part of myself and I don't know how to get it back. I'm still living with Katie, but I'll be moving out soon. I found a 1-bedroom apartment that's near Jesse, so I won't be completely alone. Mark offered to let me move in with him, but I declined. Honestly, we're kind of on standby. He knows I'm having a hard time processing my feelings about my husband and the end of my marriage. I think he wants us to be official, but I don't know. I really do like Mark and I don't want to lose him, but I feel like I need to figure myself out first. As for Steven, we ended our relationship at the beginning of August. He got a job offer in another state and took it. Even though it was casual, I did cry a little. Steven is a great guy. Whenever he does decide to settle down into something serious, the woman who gets him will be a lucky one. We've been texting here and there, but it's mostly just sending each other TikToks and polite, hope you're doing well, messages. Some people ask me if I wanted to go back to monogamy, even after experimenting and clearly getting into this poly relationship I had going on. And the answer is yes, I do. Even though Mark and Steven were great and I met plenty of great guys during my open marriage, I don't know if I've really been happy with myself or my choices. I also think I felt guilty a lot too, like I was somehow cheating on Leo, Mark, and Steven even though it was all consensual. Polyamory in open relationships may work for some people, but it's really just not for me. Jesse says I need to get a therapist. I have tried looking, but finding a therapist that's both available and seems like a good fit is a pain. Hopefully I can find one by the time the divorce is settled. I also want to figure out what to do about Mark on my own. I don't want to lead him on and give him false hope. Maybe we should take a break, or maybe I should tell him to just break up with me. He should find his own happiness without worrying about me. Relevant comments. Commenter, you're numb. It happens when you lose your partner and you're grieving and under a great deal of stress. I think Reddit as a whole takes divorce really blithely, but I read once that divorce is one of the most stressful life events, right after death of a loved one. And I'm slightly curious. You say your family is shocked that you're divorcing, because you seem so in love, but the fact that your friends are delighted you're leaving your husband tells me that they've witnessed some not so great relationship dynamics. Reply, Katie and Jesse were the only ones I told about the open marriage, so they're glad it finally ended in divorce. None of my other friends or family members know. Commenter, I've read all of your posts, and I don't know why you're still protecting your ex by not telling people what he bullied you into doing. He had the girl all picked out and wanted your approval so he could cheat. Tell the damn world. I would. You have nothing to be ashamed about. Don't let your mother put the blame on you. You need a therapist who will help you build your self-esteem. Reply, I just feel embarrassed I let it get to this point, I guess. I probably should have just gone with the divorce when the ultimatum was first issued. Commenter, I'm glad you are healing. It sounds like Mark wants more than you can give him right now. Focus on healing and finding out who you are outside of this marriage. It's sad that your STBX ruined a loving marriage for kink sex. I'm glad you are divorcing, you deserve better. Definitely get therapy, it will help you navigate the next part of your life. New update. Hey everyone, hope you all had happy holidays and a good new year. This post is just sort of a rambling update. It was honestly thanks to you internet strangers, on top of Katie and Jesse and my therapist, that I'm doing much better than I had been last year. So, I felt I owed you all a life update. Firstly, it's official, Leo and I are divorced. It was finalized earlier this week. To be honest, when I realized it was finally over, I cried, but it wasn't a sad, mourning cry like I had been doing when I first posted to Reddit. It was mainly out of relief. Relief that it was over and relief that I could actually put everything all behind me. Some of you will be happy to know that I did take the alimony Leo offered. It's honestly not too much, but it'll help me maintain some extra expenses. To be honest, I think he mainly offered to appease his guilt after everything that happened. Whatever his reasons are, they're not my concern anymore. I do have a therapist now. She's wonderful and is helping me work through a lot of untangled childhood trauma that ended up having an effect on my marriage. Honestly, if it wasn't for my mom, I don't think I would have ever agreed to the open marriage in the first place. A lot of people speculated that it was Leo that ruined my self-esteem, but it was always my mother. My therapist is helping me come to understand that my mom is and probably always will be a toxic individual. I'm trying to work on my boundaries and slowly limiting my contact with her. It's hard, but I'm trying. As for Leo, my therapist advised me to close the door on him. He originally wanted us to be friends. Despite the progress I've made, he still has an effect on me. Many of his messages were him trying to persuade me to give him another chance or him promising to be the husband I deserve. My therapist said I needed to be firm with my boundaries, and sometimes the best way to be firm to draw a hard line. So I asked him not to contact me for a few months while I sorted myself out. So far, he's complied, for the most part. He still follows me on Instagram and we're still FB friends, but he never comments on any of my posts or messages me on my stories. Sometimes he'll like something, but that's the extent of our contact, which I can handle. I have also made sure to keep myself from checking up on him, per the advice of my therapist, because I don't want to obsess over him and the what-ifs. Even after everything, I don't hate him. I thought I needed to, because everyone else seemed to for what he did. My therapist explained that it's easier to hate someone you don't know than someone you do, because I have so many wonderful and cherished memories that I can't fully separate from the painful memories he left with me. So I don't hate him. I don't even think him to be a bad person. He's selfish and self-centered, and he hurt me a lot, but he can also funny and sweet and attentive, and that was why I fell in love with him in the first place. I'm still seeing Mark. I had tried telling him we should break up because of my weird headspace and I thought he deserved better. But he said he loved me and wanted to wait for me, and promised to go at my pace for however long I needed. I want to believe him when he says that, and I love being with him, so I'm cautiously optimistic about it all working out. We still don't live together, and I kind of like it that way for now. I'm learning to become my own person again. Leo had been in my life for so long that I forgot what it was like to just be me and not me and Leo. I even got a dog, which I always wanted but never got one because Leo was allergic. His name is Iro and, thanks to him, I don't feel lonely. This will probably be my last update. I really just wanted to say thank you all for your kind words and support on all my posts. It really meant a lot to me. So, thank you and have a great new year. Top comments. Commenter 1, congratulations and condolences seem oddly appropriate. You're embarking on a new phase in your life. It sounds like you're unpacking a lot and doing great at it. Wishing you a wonderful future and peace. Commenter 2, your progress is amazing. Taking steps to limit contact with toxic people and focusing on therapy is so important. You deserve the happiness you're building. Commenter 3, please update us one more time to let us know what happens with Mark. I hope he turns out as great as he seems. You definitely deserve someone great and I'm sure you will have no trouble finding that person whether it's Mark or not. But I'm definitely rooting for you and Mark. Stories number 5 Karen, do you know who I am? Me, no, tell us, Karen, my husband is, me, that's your husband. Tell us who you are. This happened on Thursday, but I forgot to post this. So I, 27, was walking to the metro when I saw a guy getting harassed by this short women. This is what I can remember them saying, translated from Dutch, man, you have been following me sans we were in the local supermarket. What is wrong with you? Women yelling, how rude, do you know who I am? Me blurting out, why don't you tell us? At that moment, I know I might have messed up. Both are now looking at me. The women yelling in an insulted tone, my husband is, insert name I don't remember. He is a famous accountant at, insert company name. Me, having given up on escaping, that's who your husband is. Who are you? Women, my husband got a promotion last month because he helped, me cutting her of, that's what your husband has done. Who are you, and what important thing have you done? The man, now grinning, yeah, tell us, we pie, the Dutch word for Karen. The women now red-faced was stammering now unable to come up with something. I then asked, could it be that you have done nothing important? The women, let me think for a second, she then started to think and slowly turned pale. I asked the same question again, who are you, and what important thing have you done? Without an answer, the women left, having a pale face. I then said sorry to the man for not minding my own business but he said that it was okay and thanked me. I still wonder who she was and what she had done that made her so important. Stories number 6 My fiancé of 3 years didn't tell me he was married. Am I overreacting? My 24F, fiancé, 29M, and I have had an amazing relationship for the past 3 years. He's sweet, caring, and everything I could have hoped for. We've done counseling together, not because we had any issues, just because I wanted to make sure we were good because of my past trauma. He proposed this past October and planned it all beautifully. He planned a trip to the mountains with a cabin and proposed on a hike in front of a waterfall. I was so excited and started the wedding planning things almost immediately. The next week, he was acting really weird. Like I said before, he's always been super sweet and patient, but after the proposal he started getting snappy and just seemed agitated. When I confronted him about it, he admitted that he had something he was afraid to tell me. He was divorced. I knew about his ex, they had been together for 3 to 4 years and lived together. He said she separated him from his family but other than that he didn't talk about her much. He had been single for about a year when we met. He just neglected to tell me that they were married for most of the time they were together and then divorced. This never would have been a big deal if I had been told sooner, but now I don't want to plan our wedding at all because he's already done it. I feel so stupid. I thought I was close with his family, and they didn't tell me either. It feels like everyone's been lying to me but he says I'm blowing this out of proportion and it wasn't really a lie, because I never asked if they were married. I really don't want a wedding now because I just feel so stupid knowing that his family has already seen him get married before. I snooped on his mom's Facebook and found pictures of the wedding. I texted his mom immediately when I found out, because I felt really close to her before, like she was my mom too. She said the same thing he did, that it wasn't a lie if I didn't ask. I don't know what to do about a wedding now. We're definitely going back to counseling because I feel like he must not have taken it seriously the first time, or this would have come up. I told him I want documentation proving the divorce, just in case. His reason for not telling me is that he wanted to tell me, but always chickened out. He said he kept planning to tell me, but then got scared that I'd leave. I just wish he would have told me before our engagement because this just overshadows it for me. Also, I looked up his ex on social media and I think she blocked me because I can't see her profile, but my friend can find her just fine. I don't get it. I've never met her, I don't know why she would have blocked me. Please help me understand this. I don't want to leave because our relationship has been so beautiful and amazing, but I'm so hurt and blindsided. Am I overreacting? Stories number 7 Aita for accepting an invitation on my husband's behalf that I knew he wouldn't like and refusing to cancel it. Not the a-hole. My husband is a busy person, but he's not such a busy person that he can't manage invitations from his family and friends if he wanted to. His family and friends act like I'm responsible for his social calendar, which I didn't mind at first because I didn't have anything better to do, but I'm tired of being the one to have to say no to everything, and it sucks having to deal with people trying to convince me to come to things when I know they only really care about my husband attending. I've tried to get them to go to him directly, but he just sends them back my way or ignores them, so they come to me anyway. I've spoken to him multiple times about not wanting to be responsible for our social calendar, and he acts like he gets it but then never responds to invites, so nothing's changed. So I've done something that you guys may or may not think is petty. My mother-in-law has asked for us to join monthly family dinners with her side of the family. I prefer her side of my husband's family, but my husband is closer to his dad's side, so we see them more. Usually, I wouldn't accept an invite like this without checking with my husband, but since she asked him first and he ignored her, I decided to accept on his behalf. The first dinner is on Sunday, which is the day we were also supposed to have dinner with his grandfather on his dad's side, but he never told me that was happening and neither did anyone else. His dad's side have a horrible habit of just assuming we'll be at something because they've told us. Part of me thinks the dinner with his grandfather is a lie because I know he's been avoiding his half-brother like the plague since he keeps asking him for an investment and his step-siblings will be there. My husband told me to cancel, but I don't want to because my mother-in-law was so happy when I said yes. Also, his sister will be there and I haven't seen her in forever. I won't stop him from canceling if he really wants to, but he's turned this situation into a fight because I didn't ask him first and now I don't want to be the one to cancel. He's basically said if we go to the first one he expects me to tell my mother-in-law this won't be a regular thing, but I think he should be the one to do that since I have no problem having dinner with them regularly. Aita. Stories number 8 Aita for skipping my brother's wedding because his fiancé excluded my wife from the guest list. My brother James is getting married next month, and what should have been a joyous family event has turned into a nightmare. The issue? His fiancée, Emily, didn't invite my wife, Lisa, to the wedding. Emily and Lisa have never been close, but I wouldn't call them enemies either. However, Emily has always seemed a bit cold toward Lisa. The tipping point was last year during a family vacation. Lisa, who's naturally outgoing and bubbly, struck up conversations with everyone, including strangers at the resort. Emily, who's quieter and more reserved, seemed annoyed by this. After the trip, she told James that Lisa was attention-seeking and accused her of making the vacation all about herself. I didn't think much of it at the time, chalking it up to personality differences. Fast forward to now, and Emily has made it clear she doesn't want Lisa at her wedding. When I confronted James about it, he admitted it was Emily's decision and said he didn't want to push back because it's her day. He added that I should respect Emily's wishes and come to the wedding alone, for the sake of family harmony. I was stunned. Lisa and I have been married for 5 years. She's part of this family. Excluding her feels like a slap in the face, not just to her but to me as well. When I told James the first wouldn't attend without Lisa, he accused me of being dramatic and trying to punish him for something out of his control. He said I was letting Lisa's hurt feelings ruin his wedding day. Our parents are divided. My dad says I'm right to stand by my wife and that James and Emily are being unreasonable. My mom, on the other hand, thinks I should just keep the peace and attend the wedding because it's not worth destroying your relationship with your brother over one day. Lisa has been deeply hurt by the whole ordeal. She feels disrespected and excluded and told me she would never have done something like this if the roles were reversed. She's trying to be supportive of whatever decision I make, but I can tell she'd be devastated if I went to the wedding without her. It's put a strain on our marriage because she feels like I'm not standing up for her enough. At the same time, James is my only sibling, and I've always thought we were close. I know skipping his wedding will hurt him, and it could permanently damage our relationship. Part of me wonders if I should just swallow my pride and go for his sake. But another part of me feels like this isn't just about one day, it's about standing up for what's right. I don't want to ruin my brother's wedding, but I also don't want to betray my wife or compromise my values. So, Aita for refusing to go to my brother's wedding without Lisa. Stories number 9 Tofu went in for a job interview and asked to eat lunch in the office instead of going out. Was told that was why they weren't going to hire me. I'm going to try to keep this short. Looking for a job. Had a recruiter hit me up about a good fit. Zoom interviewed with a company once for 2 hours. They liked me so much they flew me to their HQ to meet the team. Essentially I was as good as hired. The flight in was rough as hell with the person in front having their seat down and my knees getting grinded by metal while we bounced around in the air. After 4 hours we landed and I went right to the hotel room to sleep. Woke up the next morning, went into the office and started meeting with the team. The CEO says they had a schedule laid out with me to meet the entire team and asked if there was anything they could do to accommodate me. I saw on the schedule that it said go out for lunch. My knees still hurting from the flight, I spoke up and said, "Is there any way we can do a meet and eat here in the office?" He said, "I guess," with a confused look on his face, then excused himself and exited. The CFO followed suit and left while I remained behind with a revolving door of team members coming in to talk with me. Closer to lunch the CEO stops back in and says, "I really think you need to take the team out to lunch, it will be good for you to bond." I instantly replied, "Okay, that works for me." Went to lunch, came back, kept doing interviews. CFO comes in at the end and says, "We appreciate your time and thank you for coming in, but we are going to pass on you and look at other candidates. We already called you an Uber, which is here, follow me." Traveled back home after spending the rest of that day at the airport. Thank God for Delta Sky Lounge, red-eye back, got home at 6 a.m. went to bed. Recruiter calls at 10 a.m. and says I have feedback on the interview. Apparently there was some issue about lunch and they felt offended. I explained what happened and said to the recruiter, "You were great to work with, please call me if another position comes up." TLDR, went to a job interview, asked if we could eat lunch in the office, not go out. CEO took offense to the accommodation request and the recruiter said that was why I didn't get the job. I've read all the comments so far. Best comment, I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Stories number 10. My boyfriend told me he has a secret child and I'm 9 months pregnant already, so yes, it sounds crazy and I should probably leave him, but I'm 9 months pregnant and just moved with his family, so I found out he, 19M, had another baby by looking through his Instagram and seen a girl message him on his secret Instagram account saying, "When is he gonna see her, and while he's at it get a DNA test so he can't keep denying it." So I replied back acting like I was him and seen her Instagram, the baby looks exactly like him. I guess 6 months before we were dating she told him she was pregnant and he just cried like wasn't his and stopped talking to her and never told anyone since, and I guess she had her baby a few months ago. So I questioned him about it and he finally admitted after hours of trying to get the full story. Of course I felt hoodwinked cause now I'm pregnant and I feel like I didn't even have a choice since I thought we were both having our first child. Mind you, I also just found out last week his real age, which is 19. We've been together almost 2 years and he just told me the truth that he's 19. I thought he was 20. He only told me cause he wanted me to move across the country to move in with his parents so he can get back on his feet and get in school and save. I need advice. Do I just stay, have this baby, save my own money and move, or should I figure out a way to get out now? I just don't know what to do. I don't have family support, or am I financially stable, but I want to be and I want to make sure my baby is okay. Edit, yes, technically my timelines are off. So I'll clarify now that I looked at the actual dates. He got the girl pregnant in August of 2023. I started dating him in February of 2024. I got pregnant in May of 2024 and didn't find out he had a baby until December of 2024 when I was already huge, and we just moved to Arizona this week, and that's when he told me he was really 20, like I thought he was. He's 19. He only told me cause when we got to his family's in AZ it would have came up most likely now with the age. I met him in August, but we weren't dating, just friends. He told me he was 19 and I was 21 turning 22 in October. I was still like he's young, so never took it seriously, but in February over the months became close friends and started to date, so now a year later I'm 23 and he's what I thought 20, but he says he was really 19. I hope that clears up the confusion, but I was just venting, so was just typing without thinking the comments were really gonna try and play detective. It was just a vent and trying to see if people had good advice. Stories number 11. My 10-year-old just won't go to school. Yes, I want him to go to school. He's missed 24 days this school year. I've tried asking him why he won't get up to go to school or if something's wrong, and he just says there's no reason and nothing's wrong. I've asked him if maybe he needs a therapist so he has someone to talk to besides me, and he said no, it's fine. I've told him that school is important and if he keeps skipping school that he'll have to repeat the grade, but him knowing that doesn't help. I want him to grow up to be an amazing adult with a job he loves doing. I understand needing a break from school, but this is happening once or twice a week and 2 times he's been gone for a whole week at a time. I'm just kind of stuck in a loop. Edit, I emailed the school asking for help yesterday, so hopefully they will get back to me on Monday. I clearly want him to go to school, so I'm not sure why people are assuming otherwise. I'm literally on here venting and stressed about it. I have appointments and things I need to get done. I do not have a car and public transportation does not go towards his school or I would take him there. I cannot afford an Uber or I'd absolutely do that. He takes the school bus to and from school, so after that bus leaves his bus stop I have no other way to get him there, which is the only reason why he stays home. I'm a single dad and I have no help at all. Which absolutely sucks. But don't assume someone's life from one block of text. I'm doing this parenting by myself with health issues and I'm not making excuses, I just have hardly any choices on what to do and it's hard to work with that. I want to say that I am not giving him the option to go to school or not. Sometimes he just won't get out of bed no matter what I do and it's beyond frustrating. I do not want him to stay home, I want him to go to school and get a good education, which is why I want advice and help. I'm very thankful for all the nice polite people giving me advice in the comments. I know I'm not a bad parent, I just have a soft heart because I've been extremely mentally abused as a minor. Stories number 12. I feel disgusted with myself because I've realized I am developing racist tendencies against people of Indian origin. I really hate myself for this. This tendency is abhorrent, and I want to get rid of it because I despise it. For context, I am a highly educated individual who has worked with people of many nationalities and ethnicities through my job and through volunteering work, Black people, Southeast Asians, Mexicans, Ukrainians, no problem whatsoever. I always try to help in situations where my skills can make a positive difference in someone's life. To my utter horror, I've realized that an instinctive tone of prejudice has crept into my thinking when it comes to people of Indian origin. I don't think it has ever affected anyone directly, but I feel genuinely ashamed of myself. Some reasons for this realization: traveling to India and witnessing people defecating in the open. Also witnessing shockingly low standards of hygiene in general. How can anyone feel this is okay? Receiving frequent spam calls from call centers, often with that distinct Indian accent. You know what I mean, the voiceless P, K, T, etc. As I said, I'm horrified by this realization of my perception. I do not want to generalize, and I recognize that systemic issues may be contributing factors. For example, 3. India's urbanization might not have kept pace with its growing population. Despite being seen as an emerging global power, a large portion of the population likely still lives in relative poverty without access to proper sanitation. So maybe it is not their fault that their hygienic standards are subpar and it is not fair to judge them from a Western perspective. 4. Certain corporations probably exploit India's workforce by hiring people on low wages. People working in such jobs may have no choice but to spam others just to make a living and put food on the table. Of course they don't care that they call this Western number X number of times in a week. Cognitively, I understand these issues and am aware that there are likely other aspects I haven't even considered as I try to contemplate the inequality. And yet, I find myself instinctively returning to points 1, dirty, and 2, annoying Indian accent. I am deeply ashamed and baffled by this because I've never had this kind of reaction to any other nationality. I do apologize to any Indian reading this. I suspect it must feel like a very clear case of stereotyping. I want to know what is wrong with me, and how to change it. Thanks. Stories number 13. My boyfriend ghosted me out of nowhere. For context, we're both in our early 20s and have been dating for almost a year. I literally just woke up one day and texted my boyfriend, only to discover that he had blocked my number and blocked me on every social media platform. We were perfectly fine before that, or at least I thought we were. We hadn't had any arguments and there was nothing bad I did behind his back or anything. This man told me he loved me more than anything, that he wanted to marry me and have kids with me. And I felt the same way. Then he just randomly decides he's done with me and doesn't even have the balls to tell me. I thought about going to his apartment to see what's up, but he clearly doesn't want to talk to me, so I'm not even going to try to chase after him. It just fucking sucks. You think you know someone so well and you want to spend the rest of your life with them, then they just disappear and you have no idea why. I know I'll get over it eventually, but still, what the fuck? Stories number 14. My husband, 33M, is upset with me, 32F, for reading. My husband and I have been married for almost 10 years. The other day my husband went out to start my car, and my phone was connected to my car Bluetooth and an audiobook I had been listening to started to play. He didn't say anything in the moment, but later I was at work and he started texting me about me reading, questioning why I was reading and why I hadn't told him I was reading it. He started to question whether I bought the books or not. I didn't, because we're doing a no-spend month, so he has our credit cards held aside right now. At first I thought he was just curious, but then he kept going and asking what else I was reading about and how long I have been doing this. When I got home I was going to let it go, but he brought up my books again, asking if my new therapist had suggested I start reading. He actually seemed upset and agitated and insinuated that I was hiding this from him. My therapist didn't specifically suggest reading, but had given advice to try and find a hobby or two that could be just for me, since I'm a busy mom. I thought it was standard to read a book without it needing to be a huge deal. How could I explain this to him so I can keep my hobbies without feeling bad? ETA, a few people have asked what book I was reading. It's a memoir by a chef Ina Garten about her life. Nothing smutty or weird about it, so I think it was less the actual book and more that I hadn't talked to him about it. Also, a few people have asked about the credit cards. That isn't always the case. We are trying to save money after the holidays by doing a no-low spend thing for a few months, so he put the cards away. Unless I need it, I can have it for things like gas and groceries. It's just miscellaneous spending that we're trying to not do. Edit 2, I see a lot of comments talking about our money and credit cards. I was really asking more about the books as it seemed odd to me, but I see what people mean about the money stuff too. We've always been that way where he oversees more of the money stuff, even before he stopped working, so it's just continued that way. I'll have to talk to him about that too, I guess, to just understand better. Stories number 15. Girlfriend threatens me to kill herself if I meet any of my friends in person. Basically, the title sums it up. My girlfriend, 23F, has sociopathic tendencies and doesn't want me, 24M, to see any of my friends. She believes that a relationship should be the only meaningful connection a person needs. I, on the other hand, want to maintain healthy relationships with people I care about. I don't think being in a relationship should mean cutting off your friends. Recently, she gave me an ultimatum: if I go out with my friends, it will hurt her so deeply that she says she will commit suicide. Ordinarily, I would break up, but she threatens to kill herself if I do. I can't bear the idea of living with the guilt of someone I once loved taking such an action. At the same time, I feel trapped in this relationship, which makes me deeply unhappy and suffocated, like living in a cage. How should I approach this? At this point, I'm totally clueless about what to do. For some additional context, she refuses to go to therapy because, according to her, she is normal. My need to have other people is something weird. Her logic is something like, if you go out with other people, it means you prefer spending time with them over me, which means I'm not the most important person in your life. Edit, I know that leaving this relationship is the only option, don't worry. I'm asking about how should I approach leaving a suicidal partner. I know that this relationship is toxic and it's impossible to get it on the right track at this point. Stories number 16. My friend coming out to me has been one of the worst experiences I've ever had. My best friend T, 30M, and I, 32F, have known each other for about 10 years now. We met through mutual, and shortly after our friendship took hold, I went through a very traumatic event in my life as I was assaulted by my ex-boyfriend. He went to jail for it and my life was in shambles. I was a broken human being, and T was there for me. Held my head up when all I wanted to do was die, got me through some of the darkest days of my life. Fast forward to about 2 or 3 years ago, T confided in me that when we met, the reason he started talking to me more in the first place is because he overheard me telling a friend of ours about an argument I had with a coworker involving trans rights. Basically, I told the coworker to stop being an asshole. I don't even remember this happening, but it stood out to T apparently. He was drawn to my compassion for the community. And after telling me that, he told me he enjoys cross-dressing. I had no idea, but was like, oh cool, so are you trans? Gay? What do I call you? What's your shoe size? And he said, no, I just like to cross-dress is all. I like high heels, so I said slay and went about our business. That was it. Now I'm not a girly woman by any means. I don't know how to coordinate an outfit. I don't know what shoes work with what ponytail. I'm not the one to go to for that type of stuff. See what I'm saying? I just exist in my band shirts and skinny jeans. But ever since he came out to me, our friendship has absolutely deteriorated. He constantly digs for reassurance from me. He needs to hear me say, or read a text, that I support him. How many times do I really need to repeat myself? Really? We often fight, him telling me I'm going to change my mind about trans people someday. He told me he isn't trans, mind you. So I stay confused. That I am susceptible to propaganda from media I don't even consume. Deep in my heart I must hate him, that he probably disgusts me. This always comes out so randomly. I get blindsided. My issue is, in my world actions mean a hell of a lot. I've bought him so much stuff to wear. I've watched as he does his fashion shows, I've advocated for him to be himself in front of our other friends as well. And yet, when he is feeling insecure he lashes at me. I constantly feel like I am under attack, or under a microscope, while I'm just existing in this life. I'm tired of defending myself out of the blue all the time. I can't be responsible for his emotional well-being at every turn. When he hears of new executive orders, or trans in sports drama, or some Project 2025 thing, I don't want to be the punching bag for it. I would and frank him in my attic if I had to. I do not associate with any political party, I tend to be anti-government if anything. In my heart I know what's right and I've always stayed true, I've always supported the LGBT++ community. So why am I the one that constantly takes the lashing from him? He always follows the barrage of accusations with profuse apologies, that I'm doing nothing wrong etc. But truthfully I wish he never told me. We were the best of friends and now there is nothing but tension and fear. I don't want to be around him anymore. I don't want to talk to him anymore. I am not a bad person. I have never carried hate in my heart, except for pedophiles, rapists, Nazis. You know the type, but so often he makes me feel like I've been wrong about myself. That somehow I do have a deep flaw within myself that I'm unaware of. I never want to go through this again. I never want someone to come out to me again. I have been miserable and although I thought this would be a beautiful thing for us, this has been an awful experience from the jump and I'm done. Update, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for the support you've shown me. Many of you suggested he needs therapy, I agree and a few months ago I scoured our local resources to find him therapists that specialize with LGBT community. I sent him links as suggestions and recently he has started seeing someone. Many of you also suggested I tell him what I have written here. Again, I have. I went to him before the internet, I promise. Smiley face. He just spiraled again after recent political events and things got ugly for us again. This will be a long road where we either continue on together or go separate ways. Time will tell. Stories number 17 Aita for calling a guy a jerk on his first date. So I'm 21M and I was out with my girlfriend 21F at a bar and we run into her good friend from high school, Katie, fake name, with this other guy she my friend knows, John also fake name. Both are 21 also. Apparently they, John and Katie, both met at my girlfriend's house a few weeks prior when John came to buy something from my girlfriend's dad. My girlfriend is excited to see them both and asks what they're doing there and they say they're on a date. We all talk for a bit and we end up at a table together. For context, originally the way we sat down was me and John across from each other and closest to the wall, the table was right up against the wall, and the girls were on the outside. And John immediately seemed irritated by this arrangement of seating even though he was by the girl he was with. Two guys were standing next to us after we all sat down. But we all start talking and John puts his hand on Katie's arm and tells her to trade seats with him. Katie did look a little confused but she started to get up to move and I told John to stop being such a dick if he wanted this first date to go well. John proceeds to tell me to fuck off and sits down in the seat Katie moved from. About 2 to 3 minutes later a fight broke out between the two guys mentioned before and one of them got punched and fell back directly into John. When everything finally got settled, I was like, wow, that was crazy. John looked at me and asked me, so am I still a dick? If you had been paying attention to your surroundings you would have noticed they were arguing before I made her move seats with me. And you would have known that's why I made her move seats with me. And I understand he thinks he's a hero or something but he didn't make my girlfriend move. He was only worried about that girl, but now my girlfriend is mad at me because she says I was a dick to him. So AIK. Comments by OOP, I'm not sure what calling me a beta is supposed to do here. Just because I didn't see the guys beforehand doesn't mean he wasn't an asshole for making her move and not saying why. He was pissed off by the seating arrangement when we all first sat down, first of all. Second, he put his hand on her arm and told her to change seats with him. He didn't ask. Him switching seats put him facing my girlfriend at the table and me facing his date. So any conversation happening would have been weird. Exactly. Don't touch someone you don't know is okay with you touching them and say, hey switch seats with me, with no explanation of it to them at that moment as to why you're having them do it. Thank you. Update, I posted my story a week ago and everybody called me an asshole but there's new information. 3 days after the problem at the bar I was going to work and my girlfriend asked me to stop by Katie's and get something she had borrowed and said Katie knew I was coming by. I get to Katie's apartment and when I go to open the door it's locked which it's never been before when my girlfriend and I have gone there. We live in a small town, this isn't unusual to leave your door unlocked especially during the day. So I ring the doorbell and who answers the door? John. I asked him what he was doing there and he gave me this stupid smirk and said, I've been here for 3 days besides work, what are you doing here? I told him I needed to talk to Katie. He called for Katie who was I guess in the bedroom and she comes out and brings me what my girlfriend needed. I asked her why the door was locked and John who was still in the room for some reason decided to pipe up and say, because I told her she needed to lock it so people don't try to just walk into her apartment like you just tried to do. Katie has never locked that door or at least if she has it's not when she knows someone is coming to her house. I told him what Katie does in her own home isn't his business. If he's that worried he can leave, and he just laughed at me. So once again he's trying to control Katie, and this time it's in her own house where he has no say. I asked Katie to step outside with me and she did, and I asked her if she felt safe and she said she felt safer than she's ever been, but she rolled her eyes when she said it. I left and called my girlfriend to tell her about all this, and she got mad at me again and told me to leave John and Katie alone, but I'm really concerned about Katie's safety. My girlfriend hasn't heard from her in a few days now. I've tried texting her also, but my messages to her won't deliver. Comment by OOP, I'm not obsessed with Katie. Katie can't see how John is, and it's dangerous for her. He's already controlling everything she does, and she immediately let him come to her house and tell her what to do there. Katie is being naive. Somebody said his girlfriend is mad because he is in love with Katie. If that was true, wouldn't she also be mad at Katie? Because she's not. They don't talk 24/7, but they're good friends, and she hasn't said anything at all about being mad at either of us. She's not his girlfriend as far as I'm aware. They went on that first date is all I know, and apparently he went home with her and never left. I know Katie pretty well. She and my girlfriend hang out often, either at my girlfriend's place or Katie's, and I've been at many of these hangouts. But I met John for the first time on that date they went on. Hate to break it to you, but that is why the door was locked. I highly doubt Katie slept with him. I care about Katie because she's important to my girlfriend, not because I'm obsessed with her. My girlfriend has told me that Katie has never slept with anyone before, and I'm assuming she would know since they've known each other for years. So no, I don't think Katie slept with him. Update 2 New update. Some comments told me to reach out to Katie when I knew John wasn't around, which became hard to do because he was there every day. I pass by her house on the way to work and I can see his car there. Editor's note, I couldn't find a single comment that told him to reach out, but I did manage to stop by 3 times and try to talk to Katie. Katie kept acting nervous when she opened the door, and even more so when I asked her about John. I kept asking her if she felt safe and she kept saying yes, but really quickly, and would close the door immediately. I tried to talk about this with my, now ex, GF, but she got mad and broke up with me. I stopped by Katie's house that same day and Katie's neighbor said that she had moved out. I asked where she went and the neighbor told me that she thinks she's staying with that nice boy who's been staying here. So I guess John managed to convince Katie to cut off all her friends and move in with him. I don't know where John lives, so I have no way of knowing if Katie is safe or not at this point. Their relationship has moved at lightning speed for no reason other than John wants to have her under his complete control. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I just hope Katie is okay. Comment, nobody is stalking or harassing Katie. She's not his to protect. He's making her do all these things she never did before. Somebody tells them they are way more unhinged than John. At least you acknowledge John is dangerous and unhinged, even if you're wrong about me. I just care about Katie. She's a good, soft-hearted, and kind person, and John is a typical alpha male who thinks he can control everything and bully everyone. For caring about a friend? Okay. Way to miss the whole point. John convinced Katie to move in with him suddenly, and nobody in our friend group but my ex, who says Katie's dad and her have heard from her, in several days. That is controlling. And it's dangerous. My ex has nothing to be embarrassed about. He's not a stand-up guy. He's a typical alpha male who thinks he's more important than he is. Dude, respectfully, you don't know Katie. Katie, the preacher's daughter who's never had a boyfriend or slept with anyone before, who's the most soft-hearted of people I've ever met, salt of the earth, all that. Katie wouldn't willingly be with this dude. He's a dick. He's abrasive. He's standoffish. He's cocky and arrogant. You don't know these people. I do. The only one obsessed with Katie is John. He's not her boyfriend. What he did wrong was try to control every move she makes and then decide he was just going to stay at her house and never leave, and then convince her to leave her house and live with him. They've been together for like a month. That's how controlling he's being. They went on 1 date. That doesn't make her his girlfriend. It was their first date my GF and I ran into them on. He took her home and never left. Then made her move in with him. Nobody goes on 1 date and decides they're going to live with someone. They've been together like a month. That's stupid fast. Anyone else would say that's unreasonably fast and concerning. Y'all are just mad because Katie has someone who cares about her and doesn't want anything to happen to her. No, she moved out because she's scared to tell John no. Katie has never had a problem with me until she met him. John manipulates people into thinking he's the best thing that's ever happened to them. John is good at making people think he's the white knight. John is good at manipulating people. He is crossing major boundaries. You don't drop a girl off after a date and then stay for over a week. And you don't then make her move in with you other than just wanting to control her and you're desiring her to sleep with you a few times and then toss her away. John has a reputation for being a bit of a fuckboy. So if she hasn't said anything bad about him yet, she will when she gets cheated on or thrown out for the next girl. Well, apparently someone John knows and may know me, I'm not sure who it was, saw the post and put 2 and 2 together and showed him. I just know he's seen them because he texted me to tell me he did. John was sent the posting by somebody who recognized it was about him and he made his own posting January 25, 2025, 21 days later. Hello, people of Reddit. John, here, even though he fucked up and used my real name in one of his comments that he then edited. I got sent a link to the account repeatedly posting about me and my girlfriend, yes, my girlfriend, even though he swears up and down she isn't, this afternoon, and it's taken me a while to be able to decide what I'm going to say. So if he wants to continue to take this to the internet for strangers to decide, I'll do that at this point. Since everybody is apparently familiar with these fake names, due to the million posts he has made, I guess I'll keep using them. First of all, Colton, you don't get a fake name. Nobody one time ever told you that the bar was our first date. You decided that it was because you didn't know better prior. You posted that post 3 weeks ago, and in it you were correct in saying that I met Katie at Haley's dad's house. You never gave your GF a fake name, so I will, a few weeks before that. So that means that we met 6 weeks ago. Our first date was the day after I met her. Whether Haley knew this or not, I have no idea. It's not something I ever bothered to ask Katie, because it didn't seem important and still doesn't. Second, I don't know why Haley told you about Katie's previous sex life or lack thereof, but that was uncalled for and not her private business to share. It also wasn't your business to put out on the internet. More than that, I can't even fathom how you managed to maneuver that question into a conversation with your own girlfriend. I doubt she just offered up the information. Third, you kept commenting very adamantly in your first, and maybe second, I lost track, post that Katie definitely was not sleeping with me. Please allow me to put your misplaced concerns to rest since it's already out there and I've talked to Katie about posting this. Yes. She is. But the sleep comes after all the sex. Fourth, let's talk about how you showed up to get Haley's sweater. You tried to barge into Katie's apartment. The door was locked, which by the way, is a safety thing. You do know she could get out of the apartment even though it was locked from the inside, right? I have to make sure because you're not very smart. You threw what can only be described as a temper tantrum of the century. Not only that, but that was not the first time you've tried to do so when dropping by to say hi. You then decided to interrogate Katie on her front porch about whether or not she wanted me to leave. Not only that, but, and you left this part out, you messaged Katie's dad whom you've never met a day in your life. Once Katie calmed him down, he understood the situation. He likes me a lot, by the way. We have plans for golf next week. Also, you texted and called Katie so many times it was insane. Fifth, when you kept dropping by repeatedly after all this when I was at work, you left out the fact that during the last visit, you went to the apartment manager's office and said you were there to check on your friend and convinced her to give you a key to Katie's apartment. You conveniently leave out the part where Katie got out of the shower and found you standing in her fucking kitchen while she was in a towel. I need you to understand that you scared the shit out of her. She called me while I was at work crying. I had to leave work, call my brother, went to rent a U-Haul, and that was the day the three of us packed up all her shit in her house and she moved in with me. Sixth, in your comments you've repeatedly said Katie wouldn't willingly be with me. Buddy, she's not chained in a basement. She has her own car and money and everything. Nobody has taken away any freedom she had before she and I got together. Seventh, you mention in some of your comments that I have a reputation for being a fuckboy. I'm not even really going to address this, other than to say okay. And eighth, you described me as cocky and arrogant, and you know what? I'll give you that. I am, and I know I am. And you must think Katie is bottom of the barrel intelligence-wise if you think she doesn't know it, too. Ninth, Katie quit her job because you know where she works and she doesn't want to go back there. You can say a lot of things about me, and some of them might be true, but I can promise you that I'm not the one Katie is afraid of. You are. And lastly, stay away from my house. And stay away from Katie. Katie might be too nice and gentle to hurt your feelings. But I'm not. So, am I really the asshole here? Stories number 18, falling in love with my late husband's best friend. What should I do? Update, we decided to slowly step into being more than just friends and test the waters a bit. He took me out to eat at a nice restaurant this week and we had a great time. He kissed me goodnight and it felt exactly like what my heart needed. We don't plan to rush things and my priority is my daughter. Since she's only 2 we plan to just continue like normal with her. She loves having him around to play with and he loves playing with her so it's a win-win. I talked with my sister-in-law about it first and she was not surprised nor upset by it. She said it will be hard no matter who it was but she thinks it's great that he fits in the family so well. My in-laws reacted similarly and just said they ultimately want me to be happy. We haven't talked about it to friends yet but plan to bring it up slowly. I, 28F, lost my husband, 32M, to suicide. He left behind me and our at the time 14-month-old daughter. It was very unexpected with no history of mental health or anything. It was traumatic to say the least. I've been seeing a therapist since it happened and although I know the grief will always be there it's not nearly as heavy anymore. I feel as if I'm in a pretty good place with it mentally. He made the choice he did and I don't deserve to live the rest of my life suffering from his decision. My late husband had a very close-knit group of friends that grew up together. We'd all hang out often, go on trips etc. Since his passing they've been very supportive and I actually think we're all even closer now in our shared grief. One of these friends, 31M, is not married and doesn't have kids so he's been more available to help out with things. As time's gone on, we've grown pretty close and text daily. He's funny and kind and he makes me smile. Him and my LH had a lot in common in terms of interests but they're also very different personality-wise. He brings a sense of calm and understanding that I never really felt with my LH. He's also wonderful with my daughter and always has been. So was my LH. Before he passed my LH would always say this friend needed to find a girl and get married because he'd be a great dad. I think we've both had some feelings for each other for a while now but have danced around the subject. He finally just came out and said it the other day and asked if I felt it too. We talked about it and both really enjoy each other but are afraid of how it may look. Neither of us want to rush into anything but we both see potential for a future. I want to give my daughter a father figure one day and some siblings and I know the older she gets the harder it will be to introduce someone. The idea of trusting anyone with her is hard and I trust him fully. Beyond that we can talk about my LH without it being awkward or upsetting and he understands my emotions because he's grieving too. I personally feel like as much as I loved my LH he made that decision to leave and I have to move forward and find happiness again for myself and my daughter. It just feels right with him. We connect on so many levels and I already trust him. I also love that he has memories of him that he can share with our daughter. That being said, we both feel a little guilty for feeling this way. Our biggest setback is worrying about others' reactions. Particularly his other friends and my in-laws. I know this doesn't look great from an outsider's perspective. How should we proceed? Stories number 19 Aita for telling my husband that he can't treat me like shit just because he makes more money than me. IF, 29, have been married to my husband M, 27, for 2 years now. He owns and runs a tech company which employs 50 people and I work a job, 9 to 5. I make $90,000 per year and he makes around $2 million per year. He spends 12 plus hours a day on his laptop where he's mostly working but he agrees that a decent part of it is not directly related to his work. His parents live with us because that's generally acceptable in his culture and we have a huge house. We have a full-time housekeeper and a cook. My husband has offered me to quit my job if I want to but I've always refused because I would like to stay financially independent. Our housekeeper and our cook rarely take any days off and whenever they take an off I also take a day off from my work to take care of the house and do all of the house chores with a little bit of my in-laws help but unfortunately this time both cook and the housekeeper took a week off together and suddenly it has become a pain in the ass to take care of the house all alone. I am usually home by 6 and my husband is home by 7 and then he spends most of his time on his laptop till we go to bed. 2 days ago, I took a day off to take care of the house and prepare food for the family as I absolutely love cooking and my MIL and FIL took care of the cleaning and other stuff. I got really upset seeing him not contributing anything and being on his laptop so I brought it up and told him that he should also be contributing to the chores and he said that he's having a stressful time at work and told me that I should look for a temporary housekeeper to help us for a few days and I spent almost an hour looking for someone but I just couldn't find someone. Yesterday after I returned from work I was not at my best because of what happened at my work and I told him that I won't be able to cook tonight and asked him if he can do it to which he said that he's working and he doesn't like to cook. He does cook for me once a month when he's in a good mood and he's a health freak so he doesn't like to DoorDash food. So I told him that even I don't like to cook when I'm being forced to cook and I had a long day at work too so I went to the kitchen and asked MIL to cook. After we got done with the dinner my husband came to me and was really angry because I didn't cook the food and MIL had to do it after she took care of cleaning the house during the day so I snapped and told him that you could have cooked too and just because you're making more money than me doesn't mean that you can treat me like shit and he hasn't been talking to me since. Aita for telling my husband that he can't treat me like shit just because he makes more money than me. Stories number 20. My 26M girlfriend 28F chose liposuction over mental health, so this is a little much, so please bear with me. My, now ex, girlfriend has had some mental health issues for a long time. Not insulting, just stating facts. Over the course of the past year, even back to January or 24 foot. She'd accused me of seeing my ex, stalking my location, showing up at my business to see if I'm working. It grew worse with her thinking I had a second phone in the house. So she tore all my belongings apart and left me to clean it when I got home from work. She accused me of wanting to fuck her friends. She's pushed me, screamed at me inches from my face. Where it gets a little interesting is over the summer it gets a little worse. She demands my phone and goes through it aggressively and doesn't apologize when there is in fact nothing to hide. Just countless text messages from my repair shop. She proceeds to fake an STD. Yes. She went to the doctor for a routine checkup, and when she got home she told me she had an STD. I was blown away because I've never cheated. In my past relationship, I was cheated on after 7 years. She confessed within a minute and said it was an honesty test. There are more things she's done, but this one was the icing on the cake. Up to recent events. She's had outbursts in December where she threatened to hurt me. She came in the room I was sleeping in, and started screaming at 4 a.m. and scared the hell out of me. Legit screaming like she was in pain. I asked what's wrong multiple times and she was upset over a dream. She got more upset and then started screaming at me. I yelled back to leave me alone. When I did, she came back and said, "If you yell in front of my dog I will hurt you," while she's screaming her lungs out in front of both of our dogs. Now up to Christmas, she applies for medical leave at work. Originally she planned all this medical leave out to better her mental health due to the problems she's been having at home. Those plans changed when a doctor's office in Florida offered a discounted liposuction surgery. She does not need liposuction and has never needed it. Told her every day how beautiful she was. She is not obese at all, for any reference. 140 pounds roughly. She wanted to thin out certain parts to be more appealing and fit in clothes. Look, I don't care about the idea of cosmetic surgery. She made a promise to me to get her mental health in better shape for the better of our relationship. It's been over a month since the leave started and she hasn't done anything other than search for therapy and schedule things for February. She complained specifically about the money involved with therapy. But she spent $4,000 on liposuction and a trip to Florida on top of it. She didn't prioritize what she said she would. I feel lied and betrayed too. Now she wants to break up because I'm not keeping up with her expectations. I don't understand how to communicate with this person anymore. Any advice on how to proceed would be appreciated. Update. She made a post yesterday. I never realized it when I made this one. Here it is. Me 28F and 26M boyfriend ignored my agonizing cries last night after my surgery. Been together for 13 months, living together for 10. So I got lipo 360, abdomen, below the bra line, flanks, upper, and lower back. It looks like I've been hit by a truck and it's hard to move, sit up, lay down, change my dressings, get things around the house, go to the bathroom. I flew to Miami to get it done and my mother took care of me down there in a hotel for the first 4 days. Now I'm back home. Last night, post-op day 4, he picks me up from the airport at 1 a.m., flight was delayed, and we immediately are fighting. He went to the wrong gate/terminal to pick me up, which is fine, but instead of driving around the lanes again, he tells me to come find him or else it'll take me 20 minutes to circle back around. He was being so passive-aggressive when he said it too. I told him I'm not fucking walking around in 7-degree weather at 1 a.m. at an airport post-surgery to find you. Only took him 5 minutes to circle back around. When we get home he immediately goes to bed because he has work the next day and because he feels hurt that I talked to him that way and that I told him in the car that I feel like I'm not going to be able to actually recover at home. I still needed to get out of the tight bodysuit to use the bathroom and change my dressings. I also needed help with opening my luggage, getting my meds, various other things like that. He's laying on the couch. I'm sobbing, like that visceral, I'm tired and in pain physically and emotionally, type of pain. He asked if I was okay in his passive-aggressive tone, and I didn't respond to that. It was like he was on some weird power trip listening to me struggle, knowing I needed to ask him for help. I've never experienced such a lack of empathy in my life. I was crying out of frustration and pain and confusion for probably an entire hour. He didn't check on me once. I hobbled past him at one point while I was crying and said we weren't renewing the lease next month because I was so hurt by this. That's the only thing that got him off the couch, and into the spare bedroom so he could sleep in peace. Before surgery I had told him I was worried he wouldn't be able to help me as much as I think he'd need to since he works so much. He says that hurts his feelings that I must think he's so incompetent. Another part of the reason I feel he's unreliable, and doesn't really care about me I guess, is because day before yesterday, he mentioned wanting to go skiing the day after I get home. So that had also already set the tone for my arrival the next day. He thinks I'm ungrateful because he did a list of to-do things to prepare for my arrival while I was gone. Which were household chores that needed to be done anyway: clean, remove the dead Christmas tree from the house, get his big Christmas gift out of the middle of the kitchen, put one sheet on a bed, grocery shop, and take a look at my car. Still thanked him for all of it, regardless. But like nothing in the house was set up to help ergonomically so I wouldn't have to reach, twist, or bend so much for the coming weeks. When he gets his migraines I wait on him hand and foot and ensure he has everything he needs. I do it with love because I want to, even if he isn't the nicest cause I know people can be moody when they're in pain. I just can't even imagine laying in bed for an hour trying to sleep, while my freshly post-op partner is screaming and crying in agony in the next room over. When I was taking care of myself last night it hit me that I was just done with him. This was it. I don't want to speak to him again, let alone ask for help. What do I even do with this? Update. Turns out he didn't get any groceries and he hasn't even called/texted to check on me. Second update. Thank you to all the ladies and gentlemen who reached out with caring words and sympathetic perspective stories. Number 21. My friend made an absolute fool of himself and what to do now. I've had a very tough year with nearly every type of relationship in my life. Romantic, sexual, familial, friendship, professional. You name it, it's blown up in my face. I've been to therapy, it wasn't great but I'm trying my best to learn from it and not give into avoidance and self-isolation. So that's the background. I, F24, volunteer at an animal shelter several times a week and there's a regular group that goes at the same time, all of which are older than me. The closest one to my age is M28. It seemed natural for us to see if we are a good match romantically, but ultimately I'm not feeling anything towards him and with everything else this year I'm fine with focusing on myself and being single. We agreed to be friends back in July and I thought that settled it. In mixed company outside of volunteering, obviously, we've had a few drinks and some deep talks, as in absolutely trauma dumping, and usually I'm opposed to this but thought being frank would help us be genuine friends and forget about the small amount of time we consider dating. Well, it turns out for the past couple months of having occasional conversations like this, it's only served to make his feelings stronger. More than once has he said, we need to talk, and in those talks he's said things like how he appreciates our close friendship, etc., relating to trauma dumping and trust and whatever. Well, last week during one of our little parties, I was joking about having a crush on someone at work. I wouldn't say it's a real crush, we've never spoken, and I'm certainly not trying to initiate anything, and M28 burst out that he's attracted to me and I should stop talking about things like that. I went beet red and changed the subject. It really pisses me off that he thinks I should censor myself because of feelings he has, that I've done nothing to encourage. The next day, of course, I get a text that says, we need to talk. I purposely skip the shelter but he insists that he comes over to talk at my parents' house because it's important. Parents were not home, so fine, he comes over, we chat a bit and then I ask, how bad is it? He launches into some of his romantic history and how it's so rare to have feelings this strong and I light up his day, blah blah blah. Excuse me for being callous but I've heard this all before. He wants sex. That's what every single relationship and friendship I've had with men boils down to. M28 starts crying because I won't just force myself to be with him. I offer him a tissue and he sniffs and asks for a band-aid instead because he fell down earlier and scraped his knee. Oh my god. It probably sounds like I'm shaming him for being unmanly but honestly IDGAF about gender. If anyone came to my house crying because they've known me for 3 months and started begging me to get over myself and fuck them and then ask for a band-aid for the smallest scratch I've ever seen, I'd think they were pathetic. My reaction to this situation is universal, I assure you. I was nicer in person than I'm being here, but I don't believe for a minute that I can continue our friendship as it was. Knowing he's this desperate to get me in bed and literally willing to grovel for it, I can't find an ounce of respect for him anymore, and having been around desperate men before I don't trust him or feel safe. He's latched onto one of my favorite hobbies, crochet, weird, right? And is trying to make plans incorporating that, but crochet is my favorite way to clear my mind alone. It's pretty obvious that despite everything I said to him, he's betting on patience and ingratiating himself to me by asking me to teach him and make things together. He's playing the long game to get his D***ck wet. I don't want to have to stop volunteering here to get away from him, and what I learned in therapy encourages me to get past this to maintain the friendship. Am I insane for being this skeptical of his true intentions? Is there anything else I can do to reduce his attraction, or is my pre-therapy instinct right to GTFO ASAP? TLDR, friend I met volunteering a couple months ago came to my house to cry and beg for me to return his feelings, lust. It was so embarrassing. Is it worth being friends anymore? Relevant comments. Outrageous oranges. Interesting. I thought therapy was usually helpful with setting boundaries. I feel like you should consider finding a new therapist if this one is encouraging you to maintain relationships with people who don't respect you or your boundaries. You did have a hand in his trauma bonding with you, another sign that your therapist is failing you. Find a new animal shelter to volunteer at. If there isn't another one in your area, you should consider just finding somewhere new to volunteer if you like contributing to your community in that way. But maintaining any kind of relationship with him at this point is just plain stupid. OOP. Yeah, I learned pretty quick after therapy that my exposures for social anxiety made everything worse. I'm avoidant as hell and have literally run away from situations I dislike, and this really expensive famous program, I'm not kidding. People come from around the world, encouraged me to say yes to everything, and it made my mental health a lot worse. Deans, say yes to everything. Do you have to sign a contract that states you won't sue the program if you end up getting assaulted or killed because you said yes to keeping a crazy stalker in your life? OOP. For how well acclaimed this facility was, all they had was one-size-fits-all band-aid solutions. So I should have never taken all their advice to heart, but I promised my parents I'd try because of how expensive it was to go. I can see how this would work for some people with social anxiety, but there wasn't a lot of consideration for the possibility that lack of firm boundaries was related to social anxiety. Minnesota. This guy isn't your friend. He would have put these feelings in check immediately if he was truly your friend. He would have asked for distance while his feelings cool down. Anything but come crying to you begging for a relationship. He's a 28-year-old man, not some hormone-driven teen. He heard you when you said that you just want to be friends, and he's decided that's not good enough for him. OOP. That's the issue I have with the crying here. I'm all for men being vulnerable and stuff, but this felt extremely manipulative, though I can't imagine how that would make me want to rip my clothes off. LMAO. I was not nice how I described my feelings toward it, but I've seen Reddit pounce on stuff like that. Sure enough, a couple comments came through, and I'm pretty heated that one of my first attempts at friendship again ended up the exact same way, all about waiting for me to give in. Here's another potential attack point for the internet. I guess I'm pretty, whether or not I wear makeup, so I've pretty much always been treated like this. Every guy friend I thought I had gone there eventually. Even years later, oh, I always had a crush on you, or I think I'm making a friend, but I get ghosted if I bring up that I like someone else. It's pretty clear my only value is having certain anatomy and a face that doesn't make people gag, and I don't have any empathy left anymore for situations like this. He never specifically said he wanted to fuck me, just be with him, but I can't see any possibility that he means me as a human and not a sex doll after dozens and dozens of experiences. Update, UGHHH. There's more. So before I made my original post, I already had plans with a mixed group including M28. Before I dive in, I just want to thank everyone that shared their experiences with ill-informed therapy, social anxiety, boundaries, and struggles similar to mine. I wish I was in a place where I could trust my gut without other input, but at least there are kind, encouraging people out there. So unfortunately the other people cancelled. It was not on purpose, just things fell apart on their end, and I ended up being alone with M28. It was okay. Later on in the day some of the others did show up, and we were playing around with those TikTok tarot readings, just being silly. Well, when it was my turn, the video that came up, of course, was all about love and romance, and I was like, ugh, no way, this makes me want to gag. M28 immediately burst into tears in front of everyone because, I wish you had said that the other night, that I make you want to gag. To be fair, there were some shots of alcohol involved before this, but still. I generally had a good day and wanted to keep the vibe, so I basically had to talk him down, also in front of everyone, and then once everyone left, he pulled me aside, shocker, and I had to reiterate again that the stupid TikTok thing is literally just TikTok. My reaction was not about him, and had to defend my entire position in life again. Then he asked if he could prove himself to no longer make a scene by helping me study for university. I said I wasn't sure, but obviously I'm not going to do that. It's hard enough to focus on school without a weepy baby having tantrums next to me and probably checking me out when I'm not looking. So, it's sad and it sucks because I have to change my whole shit now, but I managed to find some other volunteer shifts that work with my schedule, but it's cutting down to 1 day a week. I told the coordinator why and that I would like my new schedule to be private if possible, and they agreed to take me off the email list and just know when I'm coming in. I feel bad complicating her job and also ditching the other volunteers, but at least I still get to see the animals I've grown warm to. I alluded to this being a pattern in my life in my previous post and comments, but truly this guy takes the cake. He really believes that every single thing I have to say revolves around him, like he takes up space in my head. Well, he does, in a negative way. This week things seriously escalated on his end and I'm already tired of it. Surprise, M28, I've actually lived an entire life without you and I will continue to do so. Sorry you're so insecure that your life can be totally encompassed by someone else this easily. It's sad but I doubt he will change. The tactic of cry then guilt into more of what I want is super easy to do. He sees every activity I do alone, joyfully, as an opportunity to commandeer that time and make it about him. I was nervous at first he'd end up seeing this. I think he uses Reddit as well, but to be honest I don't care anymore. If he does see this, maybe seeing my side, because clearly he cannot listen, might shock him into acting like a normal adult person. TLDR, friend, threw another tantrum, I changed my volunteer schedule, and I'm done with his entitled whiny ass. Mic drop. Stories number 22 AIO. Guy I just started seeing is upset he can't sleep in my bed so, I just started seeing this guy recently. We've known each other for a while but went on our first date tonight. He brought me flowers, we went for dinner then dancing and had a great time. He drops me off, says he's so exhausted, he lives 45 minutes away and works in my city, and I say that's too bad. He says it's so late and I have to wake up so early, I don't even know if I can drive back. I say okay, if it's more convenient, you can stay here and I'll set up the couch comfortably for you. He agrees. He comes over, looks at the couch and stares at me, says, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You're seriously not going to let me sleep in your bed with you?" I said, "I told you before you even came over you're sleeping on the couch. We just had our first date and I don't feel comfortable sleeping in my bed with you, even having you in my space is a lot for me." So he then proceeds to say I'm giving him mixed signals, that he thought we liked each other and he even took me out for dinner. So automatically because you took me out for dinner, you can sleep in my bed? LOL okay, whoop-de-doo, I can take my own self out for dinner. So I tell him it's kinda messed up that because we went on a date, you automatically assume you're going to sleep in my bed. So I said to him, "How about I drive us back to your house since you're so tired, and we go sleep in your bed?" And he responded with, "My parents definitely wouldn't be okay with that. This is still so new and we're just getting to know each other." I said, "Interesting when it's in my space you're expecting it, but you know it's wrong as well, and your family would agree." So I told him have an energy drink and drive home because I felt so uncomfortable with him in my space. So, AIO. Would you guys have made him drive home too, or still let him sleep on the couch after that? I'm still pissed right now writing this TLDR. Guy I've been talking to for a few weeks and went on a first date with tonight was upset that I wouldn't let him sleep with me in my bed after dropping me off at home. Edit, I should add, this is not our first time out together. We've hung out multiple times as friends. This is the first time trying things out as a date and it all happened kind of as a surprise to me. I was not aware of all these plans. As an independent woman who takes care of myself and have always been on my own, I see no reason to let men into my bed. That's what you let your boyfriend or husband do, not someone you just went on a date with to test things out more than platonically. Stories number 23 I love my boyfriend. I love my boyfriend. He is a very nice guy. He plays D&D, Rim World, Space Engineers, Project Zomboid, and is a hard worker. I like it when he annoys me and tickles me when we are in bed. Today I cried as I hugged him because I just love him so much and he's so special to me. I think he thinks I'm emotional because I'll get my period soon, but I just genuinely love him so much. I'm glad I waited to have a boyfriend, because I'm so lucky to have him. We've been together for a year and I hope that we stay together for a long time at least, and I wouldn't mind to spend my life with him even if he thinks he's boring. I love to lay down with him and going out to eat and I love when he kisses me even when I look bad. I love that he takes care of animals and cooks for me when I'm hungry. I love him and I'm so proud of him and I love that he loves me back. Stories number 24 to full by staring at a client during a couple's massage. I'm a registered massage therapist, RMT. Often during treatments, especially when using Swedish techniques, I tend to visually zone out. I find it easier to focus on what I'm doing with my eyes closed to just staring into space. Just work by feel, you know. Today another RMT and myself were booked for a couple's massage. My client was female and my coworker had her male partner. Now, today I'm more tired than usual. It was a very gusty night and the wind howling kept waking me up, so as I'm working in the warm, quiet and dimly lit room, anytime I close my eyes I can feel my body wanting to doze off. In these types of situations, a couple coworkers and myself will start doing facial exercises to try and keep ourselves awake without disturbing the client or taking away from their experience. Think like, super wide eyes, clenching and unclenching jaw, furrowing and unfurrowing brows, puffing up cheeks and sucking them in, etc. It's weird, and it looks weird, but it does help, and usually no one knows unless there's another RMT in the room. So I'm making these weird faces to try and keep myself awake and on task, and the appointment is going as normal. The other RMT has their client turn, puts their eye mask on, I have my client turn over and give them an eye mask, and then I continue my face exercises. At some point, I'm away in my head somewhere while working away and not paying attention to what I'm actually staring at while continuing to make these stupid dumb faces, when suddenly I zone back in and notice my coworker's client staring back at me with a very disturbed expression. My coworker had removed their eye mask because it kept sliding off, and I hadn't noticed. I had been seemingly intently staring at this poor guy, making bizarre faces for at least several minutes at this point. He didn't say anything, so I swiftly broke eye contact and tried to avoid looking his way again for the rest of the session. I basically ran from the room after the appointment ended. Just feeling mortified by this. And if that client happens to stumble upon this, I'm sorry for making it weird. Thanks for not complaining about my weird staring. TLDR, today I effed up by zoning out and absent-mindedly staring at a client during a couple's massage while doing facial exercises to stay awake. Update, they rebooked. Just letting y'all know, looks like it went over as best as it could have. After that appointment, I had quickly let my boss know what had happened before I had to jump into my next appointment. She, like many of you, enjoyed a good laugh at my expense. The couple hung out in our lounge and sauna for some time after, and at some point then, as I was informed at the end of my day, my boss checked in on them to see how they enjoyed the amenities and service. They seemed to be enjoying everything and didn't mention anything about my weird faces at that point, so she didn't bring it up. When they went to pay, they left generous tips for my coworker and myself. A few hours later, the guy called back and asked to rebook, specifically asking for the girl with the funny, focus face to work on him this time. Apparently, his girlfriend told him it was a really good massage, so he wants to give me a go next round. Funny faces and all. They'll be back in a couple of weeks. So, I suppose while I felt like I'd royally fucked up in the moment, it sorta worked out in the end. Stories number 25. Aita for being mad at my husband for saying he would pick his deceased wife over me. My 34F husband, 37M, was married once before me. She was his high school sweetheart. They started dating their junior year, survived long distance during college, and got married when they were both 23 very shortly after graduating college. She passed away unexpectedly at age 26 from an aneurysm, and it obviously devastated him, especially because they were extremely young. They never had children. He contemplated remarrying because he was so heartbroken, but we ended up meeting about 4 years after that. We got married when I was 31 and he was 34 and have 2 children. Last night, we were at a friend potluck gathering. Everything was going well until one of our friends brought up a new topic that had to do with relationships. She is newly divorced, so it was about her divorce. Others were chiming in with past relationships from high school, college, etc. I had said I never thought I would get married because my luck with men has always been terrible until I met my husband, and I said I felt very lucky to have met him. After a little while longer, my husband brings up his deceased wife. Everyone knows he was married before me and that she passed. He was talking about her and then drops a bomb and goes, if she walked through that front door right now, I'd pick up where we left off. If I am being honest, it felt like someone put my heart into a blender and punched me in the gut as hard as they could. Everyone in the room could sense the awkwardness that followed. To avoid making a scene, I just laughed it off, even though I think it was still obvious that it hurt me. I just felt that if you still felt that way, then why are we married? I've never asked him to get over his wife. I have never had a deceased spouse or even a deceased partner, so I am unsure how that feels, but I would never say that in front of my new spouse. After the gathering, we left and I did not speak to him the entire car ride home or barely the entire night. I did tell him that what he said hurt my feelings deeply and that we could talk in the morning once I've calmed down, because I didn't want to say something mean to him. I ended up sleeping on the couch because he would not leave me alone. It's now the next morning and I barely slept. He is still sleeping. I'm not really sure what to say or what he will say. Update, Aita for being upset with my husband for saying he would choose his deceased wife over me. This may be a long one. I also tried to reply to as many comments as I could, but they were flooding in and I got a bit overwhelmed. May still try to read and reply to them. Many brought me to joyous and grateful tears. Also, alcohol was not involved in the sense that he wasn't drunk. My husband is 6 feet 3 inches and almost 250 pounds. He had eaten quite a bit and had 1 beer. He was practically sober anyway. We talked. I asked him to let me go first and to not interrupt. He doesn't usually interrupt anyway. This isn't verbatim. Just a rough sketch of how things went. I also included points some of you made. Without mentioning I posted about this of course, I just want to say that I do not hate you for what you said. I understand where you were coming from. She died and it was something neither of you saw coming. I could never ask you to get over her or to forget her because I know how much you loved her. She was your first love. I do understand that if she hadn't passed, we likely would not be together and you too likely would be. I have always understood this. But to say what you said hurt my feelings and embarrassed me, and even though her coming back from the dead is impossible, if it were, you would leave me and the children? It was probably one of the worst things anyone has ever said to me. It is clear your feelings about her are still raw and it still hurts and I want you to get counseling and I want couples counseling very soon. He then apologized profusely. Teared up and said how he did not mean to hurt me and embarrass me in front of our friends. He basically said that he thought about it before he went to sleep and came to the realization that he should have kept it to himself. I mean, I can't be angry for what he thinks. He loved her and she died. His feelings are also valid here. Also said that he would never leave me and the children and that what he said was just a poorly thought out and poorly worded statement. That he was not thinking clearly and when he said it, he immediately felt that maybe it came out wrong. I asked him how he would feel if I said that to him. He says, yeah. It's bad. I know, I shouldn't have said it. I wouldn't be happy. I know you aren't happy. I should have apologized in front of everyone as soon as I said it or not have said it at all. I then asked him to think of the children and said, it's like you saying, hey, children's names, if my dead wife walked through the door, I'd pack my bags and never speak to you guys again, and then it really got uncomfy. After some silence, I had no idea what to say after that. He asked me if I wanted to divorce. So I asked him why he would think I would want a divorce just to see what he would say. He says he doesn't know. I didn't answer his question and said we needed to look into counseling. That he needed to get counseling for himself and that we would go to couples counseling. And if the answer is no, I am not interested in moving forward. This isn't 100% about the comment anymore. I need to know if he is willing to make the necessary changes and put in the work to fix what he messed up. Because if he were to dismiss my feelings or not want counseling, it means he doesn't think this was that serious and that he may not take me seriously. I also said this to him. Some of the comments also told me to take the kids elsewhere. I agreed with this because it would be difficult to get through this while also parenting. I've got a very young daughter and a son that is a toddler. They are currently with my parents for the weekend and I'll be getting them Sunday night, so this gives us time to really work. He suggested he sleep on the couch instead of me. I have nowhere else to go. I haven't told my parents because I really would like to keep this between me and him as much as possible. Family and friends jump to judge too fast and sometimes offer extreme and harmful advice and it's also embarrassing. Luckily we both have very good insurance that will help with counseling. I told him that it seems like whatever counseling he got after her death was not enough and that he was not consistent with it like he should have been. With trauma like that, I personally would have been in counseling for years before I even considered remarrying. He agreed. He was only in it for about a year and then stopped once he moved away from his hometown. Never got back into it. He also agreed to the individual and couples counseling. Kept apologizing. Kept telling me he loved me all day. It was also so difficult to be around him because he kept looking at me. I couldn't think. It was like he would try to say something and then he would just stare and not say anything. With the kids gone, there's nothing to really do except talk, so we talked again right before dinner time. He asked me if I wanted him to cook or buy something. I still was not hungry to be honest. So I just told him he could pick something up for himself and that I wasn't hungry and that prompted the second discussion. Realized he must feel very bad because he noticed I hadn't really eaten much all day. Kept asking me to eat. I wasn't sulking too bad or anything, just doing my usual tasks, but not speaking or eating as much and because we're home together all day, he noticed this. Asked me one more time to please eat dinner with him, so I agreed. During dinner, he told me that he looked for counselors himself and wanted me to see if I thought they were okay enough and that he would keep looking. Last stretch. After all of that, I told him that we can't really predict anything until we've met with therapists. I don't want him to keep saying sorry. I want work and change. And then maybe we can move forward, but this is the first step. I don't want to just leave him. I am also not saying divorce is off of the table. I think he is still hurting from her death and his judgment is very clouded. If he didn't love me, I doubt he would have apologized so many times and looked for counselors on his own. A man that doesn't love me probably would have made me look or rejected going altogether. Many people were suggesting this. I do not think he doesn't love me. Thought of this myself. Cried about it. Thought of my children. Cried more. I'm not staying for the kids, I'm staying because I want to at least try to fix. If it cannot be fixed, then at least I tried. We were also very close. Some people were asking how close we were prior to marriage, I guess as a way to gauge the difference between their relationship and our relationship. Maybe to see if he settled. He was always very romantic, caring, and sweet to me. We've never yelled at each other. When we first started dating, he would plan dates, surprise me, brag about me to his friends. So that's why I am very confused on why he would blurt that. Unless it was just very poor brain and mouth coordination. I also told him that I may get a counselor for myself. I don't think I need one. Someone suggested this, but I think he needs it more than I do. And because insurance companies are getting shittier by the year, 3 counseling bills may be pushing it. Ick. If I do get one, it's because I don't want to potentially resent him or doubt myself. Some people were making attempts to make me doubt myself. Some people in the comments were very nasty to me. I appreciate Reddit hiding comments with many down votes as they may be mean, but I couldn't help but click. Some of you are very mean and very nasty individuals, and I hope you find happiness one day. There could be another update in the future. Not opposed to making one. Thank you all for your kind words and support. I've also responded to everyone that texted me, which was everyone there at the potluck that has my number. 3 people, there were 9 people there not including us. They've all basically said the same thing. They can't believe he said that, they feel bad for me, asking if everything is okay, what he said was not okay, etc. He showed me some of the texts with him and his friends, and some made me cry with how kind they were being towards me. Basically telling him he wasn't necessarily wrong for thinking that, but wrong for saying it. I told him I loved him as well. And I have never not loved him even for a second, and that I wasn't angry with him and didn't want him to, I guess, suffer, for what he said. But I was just hurt and needed him to know that it did hurt me and him to respond how he saw fit, and we'd go from there. That is all for now. I could possibly answer more questions here. If you have any, I tried to answer some of the more frequently asked ones that I saw. Again, sorry for this being so lengthy. Have a nice weekend everyone, and thank you again. Stories number 26. Aita for suing my brother over a family heirloom he gave to his fiancée. I come from a family where heirlooms mean a lot. Our grandmother left us an antique diamond necklace that's been passed down for generations to the first daughter in the family. Since I'm the only daughter of this generation, it was supposed to come to me. My brother claimed grandma told him in private that it should go to him instead because he's the most responsible. I didn't want to cause drama, so I let it go, even though it felt unfair. Last week, I saw on social media that my brother gave the necklace to his fiancée as an engagement gift. She posted a picture wearing it with the caption, "Feeling like royalty with my new family heirloom." I confronted my brother and reminded him the necklace was meant to stay in the family. He said, "She is family now. Don't be petty." When I asked for it back, he refused, saying it would ruin their engagement. I decided to take legal action to get the necklace back. Now my brother is furious and calling me selfish. My parents think I'm overreacting, but some extended family members are on my side, saying he never had the right to give it away. His fiancée even messaged me, calling me a jealous drama queen and telling me to find my own man to buy me jewelry. The whole thing has caused a family feud, and now my brother and his fiancée are threatening to uninvite me from the wedding. Aita for taking this to court over a necklace that was supposed to be mine. Comments, Commenter 1 also her man did not buy it, he stole it. Don't respond to her while you are suing, but when it is over and you get it back then you can make it clear her loser man did not buy anything for her and stole it. Take him to court. Commenter 2 my wife loved a chest at my mom's house, I know it should go to my sister. So I went out and bought one for my wife to pass down. Commenter 3 what an insanely rational thing to do. Good on you, man. Update wow, I wasn't expecting this much attention on my post. Thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts and advice. I wanted to give an update because things have escalated and there's some new context. First, I talked to my parents about the situation. It turns out my brother didn't just take the necklace, he convinced my dad that grandma told him it was meant for him because she thought a man would be more responsible. My dad, trying to avoid conflict, handed it over without asking questions. So no, my dad didn't intentionally give it to him, it was manipulation. I also reached out to other family members who remember grandma's clear wishes that the necklace was supposed to go to the first daughter. They're willing to back me up if this goes to court. My dad has also agreed to speak on my behalf in court, clarifying that he never meant to give the necklace away permanently. As for the legal side, I've consulted with my lawyer, who thinks I do have a case. Since there's no will, it all comes down to proving that the necklace was meant to stay in the maternal line. It's tricky, but I feel more confident now knowing I have some family members on my side. My brother and his fiancée, however, have doubled down. They've accused me of being jealous, and his fiancée posted another passive-aggressive picture on social media wearing the necklace, captioning it, "Some things just find their rightful home." It's honestly infuriating. At this point, I'm committed to fighting for the necklace, even if it causes more tension in the family. I'll keep you updated if there are any major developments. Comments reply, I'm not backing down no matter how much they try to twist things. This necklace belongs to me and I'm going to make sure it stays in the family. Commenter 1 Keep fighting. And don't fall for, "You're breaking the family apart," narrative. Your brother is doing that and he can fix it very easily. I would also partially blame your dad, who should grow a pair and have a serious talk with your brother. It seems your family dynamics is quite odd though. Commenter 2 This all happened because the dad didn't think twice before handing the necklace to him. An item such as that necklace shouldn't be giving away without serious questioning. Commenter 2 Fight. This is theft and it rightfully belongs to you. But ask yourself, how come all of you bend to your brother's will? Have things like this happened before? Reply, yes, things like this have happened before and it's always been my brother getting his way. It's frustrating but I'm not letting it slide this time. Update 2 Hi everyone, here's the latest update. My court date is set for the 27th and I've been doing everything I can to prepare. Honestly, this whole process has been so overwhelming emotionally, mentally, and financially. I never expected that standing up for what's right would come with such a heavy price. I've had to dip into my savings to cover legal fees, which has been stressful, but I can't back down now. The good news is my dad has agreed to testify on my behalf. He's been reflecting on everything and realizes now that my brother manipulated him by claiming that grandma wanted him to have the necklace. My aunt is also supporting me and has shared specific moments where grandma talked about how the necklace was supposed to go to me. Having them both on my side is giving me hope. Meanwhile, my brother and his fiancée are making things even messier. She actually brought the necklace to a family dinner recently wearing it like a trophy. She didn't say anything directly, but the way she was flaunting it felt like a calculated move to provoke me. My mom told me to just let it go after that incident, but how can I when it's so clear they're doing this to spite me? I don't know, sometimes it feels like my mom is supporting my brother. She's been really quiet about all of this. The emotional toll of this fight has been huge, but I'm trying to stay strong. This isn't just about the necklace, it's about honoring my grandmother's wishes and standing up for myself in a family that has always prioritized my brother over me. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting me here. Your encouragement has been such a lifeline during this difficult time. I'll update you all after the court date on the 27th. Comments reply, honestly I didn't expect things to get this intense. It's like every time I think I'm making progress, something else comes up. Still shocked by how quiet my mom's been about it all. I'll keep you all posted after the court date on the 27th, fingers crossed. Commenter 1 Your mom, parents actually, sucks for not standing up to you and not asking you POS brother and fiancé to leave when she showed up flaunting it. Commenter 2 Or better yet, sit on her until she took it off. Commenter 3 Sounds like your brother and his fiancé are playing mind games. It's frustrating when family doesn't see the manipulation happening right in front of them. Stories number 27 Aita for not supporting my wife's decision to punish our son and letting him go to a party that will be tonight. This is a throwaway, but this involves some absolute high school drama nonsense that someone my age should have to deal with, but maybe I am tripping and missing something. So, here I am. I, 45M, share a daughter, 17F, and son, 15M, with my wife, 41F. My wife's best friend, 40F, has two daughters, 18F and 15F. My wife's best friend moved to our town about 6 years. My wife and her best friend have been not so subtly pulling for the two 15-year-olds to end up together. I find this weird and low-key creepy. About 2 years ago, wife's BF's youngest daughter appeared to have developed a crush on our son. My son talked to me about it and he had zero interest. So, we discussed how to tactfully but firmly let her down. She has approached him again a number of times over the last couple of years and he has reaffirmed his lack of interest. This past summer, my wife's BF's oldest daughter turned 18. Her parents went all out for her birthday. It was a whole weekend of festivities and events. One of the events was a couple's dinner for the oldest daughter and all her friends in couples. The younger daughter of wife's BF wanted to go to the dinner but did not have anyone to go with. She asked my son, and he agreed to go, but only as friends and just this one time. So, they went together. After the dinner, the couples all watched 10 Things I Hate About You together. It was my son's first time seeing it and he commented that he thought the Heath Ledger singing scene was cool. This is important later. My business partner, 44M, every year, for the last 5 years, throws a huge Halloween party. All our employees are invited along with close friends and family. The party requires a costume. And at this party, there are prizes for best individual costume, group costume, and couples costume. My wife's BF and her family are obviously invited every year. This year, the Halloween party is tonight, October 26th. So, let me get to the reason I am here. About a month ago, my son is at school, and comes towards him is my wife's BF's younger daughter with a whole song and dance routine. She ends it by asking him to be her date for the Halloween party. My son was so frustrated and reiterated, for everyone to hear, that he is not interested in her like that at all. Of course, it being high school, some kids laughed and she ran off crying. She has been bullied pretty badly because of it. My wife's BF is livid and thinks our son owes her daughter an apology. My wife agrees and thinks, at a minimum, he needs to defend her against the bullying. My son has said that for 2 years he has told her he is not interested and reiterated it over and over. At this point, he thinks it's kind of harassing to him and it is not his role to defend her harassment of him. I agree with my son. My wife and I have had a number of disagreements about it since it happened. Well, things have intensified in the last couple of weeks or so because another girl, who wife's BF's daughter apparently does not like, asked our son to be her date for the party and he agreed. They are doing a pretty dope couple's costume. This has really pissed off my wife because she thinks he should, at least, not go to the party with another girl out of respect. I think that is ridiculous. I plan on driving them to the party with me. My wife now does not want to go to the party and is saying I am an and raising our son to be one. So, Aita has no consensus but, OOP received the majority of NTA's relevant comments. Does the girl's father know what is going on regarding the situation? He is not being mentioned in the post reply. The girl's own father agrees with me. He hasn't said it to his wife because he does not want to ruffle feathers in his house, but he fully agrees with me. He has told his own daughter, multiple times, to leave my son alone. I should leave his wife if she isn't taking their son's side over the whole situation. Reply, in a marriage, with certain exceptions, you do not just get up and walk out the door over fights. She isn't actively harming our son. She had one conversation with him about it where he stated his position. I then defended his position and her and I, alone, have been fighting about it since. He is no longer in the conflict. It is between us now. But, I am not going to break up my family just that quickly. That is insane. So, you think it is shitty parenting to try and resolve conflicts rather than immediately leaving? Good to know. In no way will that make kids afraid of what might happen if they have a conflict with their parents. I am showing my son I am willing to go to the mat for him. Leaving says I rather not be bothered with the problem. It frees me from the conflict, but it does absolutely nothing for him. That is still his mother. OOP responds to multiple comments regarding needing to teach his son to stand up for himself and others within his close circles. Reply, I am usually in favor of that type of viewpoint. The issue here is virtually every considerate act my son has taken towards her over the last 2 years has only ever invited more requests and pushiness from her about dating. My son has a generally overly accommodating personality. This is really the first time since he was little that he has pushed back with force. I think it is necessary here to stay pat. Update, given the events of the past couple of weeks, I thought I would give an update. My wife did not come to the Halloween party. I took my son and his friend and they had a great time. Unfortunately, only came in fourth in the couple's costume voting. After the party, tensions with my wife died down considerable. She still felt what I did was wrong but she took a, what is done attitude. The bullying at school has gotten more intense. Apparently, my wife's best friend's daughter confronted the girl who my son did take to the Halloween party. That escalated the bullying from other girls and 2 factions have formed among the girls in 2 grades over this and it has gotten out of hand. Apparently some accusations have been thrown around about cheating at my son by various girls. My son has been unbothered because all his truly good friends know the truth. Last Friday we got a call from the school wanting to meet with us about the situation since my son was the source, their words, not mine, of the issues. We met with some of the administration and one of the teachers on Tuesday. They wanted my son to help the situation by defending my wife's best friend's daughter to their classmates. He refused and talked extensively about her harassing behavior over the past 2 years. they pushed against his description of her conduct. But, we ended the meeting with my son promising to provide a list of her harassment over the past 2 years. Tuesday evening, my son prepared the list and showed his mother and I. When my wife saw the list, it was like scales fell from her eyes. She got pretty emotional, apologized to our son, apologized to me, and we had a good group hug. She is now 100% on our side. She asked our son if she could share the list with her best friend. My son agreed. My wife's best friend's response was to double down. My wife is going low contact for the time being. On Wednesday, we took the list to the school. It is a private school and has a strict code of conduct for students in and out of school. So, there is a possibility best friend's daughter may have some type of punishment for her behavior. I took my son out of school for the day and we hung out all day. Just dropped him back off at school today. So, this is the update. Edit, I wanted to add something I said in the comments. My mom for years was a counselor. One thing she taught me is that repentance and forgiveness are not events, but processes. Also that in order for a relationship to be restored, there must first be repentance from the wrongdoer. In light of that, a practice she had our family do was to write letters when one of us caused harm to another. The letter includes, in detail, 1. The wrong the person has committed, 2. The resulting harm that was done, 3. The immediate actions that will be taken to mitigate the harm, and 4. The long-term actions being taken to mitigate the harm/ensure the action is not repeated. My wife is currently working on her letter. The person who receives the letter can respond and request that additional actions be taken to address the harm done. My wife knows she is only at the beginning of the process and that it is going to take time. Relevant comments. Your wife's thoughts after reading their son's list regarding what has been done to him in the past 2 years. Reply, my wife told her best friend that until she is willing to apologize to us, to not contact us unless it is an emergency or parents association, basically, quasi-PTA for the school, business. Why isn't the school or police being involved in the bullying situation? Reply, a lot of my work involves working with domestic violence victims. Trust me, they won't give a shit that my son is being harassed by a girl he is a foot taller than. The school isn't doing anything to my kid. He isn't in trouble in any way, and the police would literally not do a damn thing about this. They won't even go to or involve the school. OOP clarifies on if the girl who went out with his son was being bullied or not. Reply, she isn't being bullied is my understanding. All that she has had is the confrontation, which my son says she handled well and remains in good spirits. My wife's best friend's daughter is the one has had increased bullying as a result of that confrontation. But, 2 factions have formed. How OOP's son is responding to the girl harassing him. Reply, just to be clear, my son isn't being bullied or doing any of the bullying. He is pretty unbothered by everything going on. Nope, he is truly unbothered, based on his words and actions. We have regular check-ins about this and he thinks she is ridiculous and annoying, but he simply does not care. I am like, are you sure? Are you completely positive you don't need us to do more here? He reiterates, no. He is very much unbothered. I provides an example of his son's breakdowns of the harassment that caused OOP's wife to change her reactions. Reply, one incident that was particularly salient for my wife is something that happened the spring break 2023. She had apparently forgot about this. Both our families went away and did spring break together in Phoenix. One night, we planned for all the kids to go out and us parents were going to do a PJ date night at our Airbnb. My son didn't want to go out so the youngest daughter stayed as well. She took a bunch of pictures and posted to social media, I think it was Instagram. She captioned it, date night. Apparently, a bunch of people at school saw it and called my son. He demanded she take it down and she did. Our son told us when we got back, but my wife had forgot about this incident. New update. Editor's note, removed 2/3 of the final update as it is a rehash of the original and update posts made prior. This will be the final update. After everything that went on with the school last semester, my wife's best friend decided to remove her from school, and she is now going to the local public school. But, a week ago, my son received an email from the daughter apologizing for everything that occurred last semester and asking for them to remain friends. Apparently her dad finally set her down and explained how everything she did would look from a guy's perspective. My son wrote back and said while he accepted the apology, he thinks it is best that he keep his distance. He wished her luck at the new school. My wife's best friend still insists that my son should apologize to her daughter. My wife has said, in no uncertain terms, that shit isn't happening. A few more kids were disciplined by the school since my last post, but things have calmed down on that front. We are doing family counseling, and it has been going well. That is all. This is the final update. Top comments. Commenter 1. The sad thing is, if it was OP's son harassing the wife's friend's daughter, then things probably wouldn't have gotten as far as they did without the police getting involved. I'm glad OP's wife and the wife's, now former, friend's husband ended up siding with OP's son and explained to the daughter how and why her behavior was inappropriate. At least she learned her lesson, unlike her mother. Commenter 2. Wife's friend knew deep down that the situation was out of hand but doesn't have the wherewithal to come back down to reality, let alone apologize. I think she's the real villain of the story. She influences the child and doubled down at every opportunity. Commenter 3. Your son has been a champion through this whole thing, as have you. I'm glad your wife has come around, even to the point of shutting down her friend, who still doesn't get it. I hope there's no more drama coming your way. Commenter 4. Wow, this is a perfect example on how harassment of a male is ignored, swept under the rug or downplayed. You believed, sided and supported your son, and it's refreshing to see that happen. Kudos to you, Dad. Your son wished this girl well and said he wishes no more contact with her, and that's it. Tell your wife that the girl is an obsessed stalker. Yes, she is a stalker. Remind your wife that you never engage in a stalker because it only encourages that crazy behavior. Also remind her that your son cut ties with this girl and that's the end of that. He owes her no apology, and if she insists, it might be time to have a deep discussion with your wife and how she should be protecting your son and not worried about the feelings of a mother-daughter nutjob duo. Stories number 28. Looked in wife's phone 40M and 38F. My 40M and wife 38F have been together for 20 years. The other night she went out for a friend's birthday and told me a group of guys approached them, which is understandable because she is beautiful. She told me nothing really happened and she told them she was married and that was it. The next morning I woke up before she did and I let my mind get the best of me and I went through her phone, I know, and I found nothing about that night. But I looked at some replies to her posts from a while and I saw this one guy liking her pics, so I checked him out and that's when everything changed. I found out she was messaging a guy she met on her friend's bachelorette party. They were messaging back and forth for a few weeks. Sending provocative messages, no nudes were sent. I asked her what happened. She swears she lost her friends when she was away and this guy helped her find them. She said her friends asked him where the best places to go were and got his number. She swears they didn't meet up with him again. But when she got back, apparently somehow they connected and started messaging each other. The kicker is this was 9 years ago. At the time our lives were very different. I owned a business and worked 80 to 90 hours a week, 7 days a week. I never spent time with her and didn't give her love or what she needed. She said she was lonely and going through a tough time and she made the biggest mistake of her life. She swear they never hooked up or did anything else. Our lives are very different now and we are closer than we have ever been. I just don't know how to feel about this or get over it. I took my ring back and told her it's over. My question is, how do I move forward? Stories number 29. Aita. If I don't attend my brother's wedding after he told me last minute he wouldn't be attending my 10-person, including the bride and groom, now 8-person wedding, then cutting my entire family off for 6-ish months, but now wants back in like nothing happened. This is not a throwaway account and honestly, I don't care who the hell sees this. I genuinely feel like I wasn't wrong, but because of how the situation spiraled, I feel like I could be the asshole and maybe I just don't see it. I apologize in advance for any grammar errors, misspelling or mistakes. I just need someone to talk to about this. Would I be the asshole if I don't go to my brother's wedding? Long story short, I have been with my fiancé for 9 years. I am 28. And female. Not sure if this is important info, but whatever. My fiancé, 28M, and I planned a small elopement ceremony in Mexico this coming February. 33 days away today. About a year ago, we shared the news and where we were thinking of having the wedding. Everybody was on board with it and excited. Making comments like, "We can't wait," and "Can't wait to spend some time with everyone." There were no issues brought to the table. The wedding would be myself, husband, brother, his fiancé, older brother and his girlfriend, husband's sister and her fiancé, husband's mother, and my mother and father. Not like we don't all know each other or hang out on a regular basis. As far as I knew, the next 3 months goes by, people are working on getting their passports, outfits, etc. Then my little brother, 26M, gets engaged to 30F. Which was wonderful news. I've always wanted a sister. I literally sobbed so hard because I was just so excited. 6 months out to my wedding, I asked my brother to make sure he had booked his room. He kept saying he was going to get around to it. Every time I would text him, he always had an excuse for being busy or at work or in school, which is totally fine. That's why I try not to bug him. Another month rolls by and I hear nothing. I then reach out to him and ask him what's going on and if he's booked yet. Here's the kicker, I receive a text message stating that he will not be able to come to the wedding because he has too many things coming up this next year and he honestly didn't plan for it. But he'd totally make it to the after celebration if there is one, which really hurts me considering I gave him more than enough time to plan, and my parents said they would pay his way. No questions asked. He was the sibling I have always been the closest with. That is my buddy till the end. He was my best friend. I would have asked him to be my best man if we had a bridal party. My heart feels shattered. And I'm still shocked he's not coming. I've had a hard time accepting this, although I don't share that with others or voice how I feel. I am devastated. I text him back about how hurt I am, and explain this was supposed to be just a family elopement and a family vacation because we've actually never been out of the country or on a family vacation like this ever. And it's my wedding. It's an important day for myself and my husband and families. He then proceeds to blow up on me, blow up on everybody else in my family, my mom, my brother, and my dad. Pretty much said that he's treated like a baby and that he shouldn't feel bad for missing my wedding because he has his own stuff coming up this year and it's a ridiculous request from me. His tone and attitude has completely changed. It flipped like a light switch. I would have just had the wedding here had I known and had a large one with my whole ass family. I couldn't cancel because my husband's mother's sister and sister's fiancé already booked 9 months prior, so I felt too embarrassed to ask them to cancel and request a refund, and I would have kissed $2,000 goodbye in deposits for the wedding. Long story short, he pretty much stopped talking to all of us, told my parents that he needed time from us because he thinks we're all incredibly disrespectful. My older brother just had his first child 5 days ago and his girlfriend had to drop out of coming to the wedding, which is completely understandable. However, my older brother is still making the trip out there with my parents. I truly don't have words because I'm so thankful. My oldest brother is someone I would have never expected to show up for me, and he is. My own sister-in-law doesn't even like me yet she and her fiancé are coming. They just moved to Boston in August of 2024 so her fiancé can go to Harvard for grad school. They have a crap load of financial things that they are taking care, including getting married in Michigan in October 2025. And they still made this work. I am sobbing as I type that part because my heart feels incredibly thankful they are doing this for my husband and I. Fast forward, we are 34 days out to my wedding and I've talked to my brother very minimally other than to congratulate him on becoming an uncle. I've tried my hardest to be the bigger sister and shove down my feelings, but I just opened their wedding invitation to their upcoming wedding this September 2025. Honestly, how do I move forward with this? I am so angry and hurt. I would have just rather someone be honest and tell me they don't want to spend money on my wedding because they want to spend money on their own. There's other context that just really sucks, but at the end of the day I've never had siblings I can rely on. Both of my brothers are recovering addicts and it's been such a hard past 6 to 8 years. So I don't even know why he says I'm spoiled. Since I was a kid, I have always been put on the back burner because I'm a girl and I can just get through it and everybody else always needs help. Just like my learning disability went unnoticed and undiagnosed for so long because everyone else was having issues. I'm just really sad. It's so defeated and I just feel like I have to move forward and I'm not allowed to say anything. I really don't know what to do to move forward. And to be honest, I felt horrible when he cut us off over the wedding. My mom and dad were stressing out a lot, and I felt really responsible and they kept reminding me how they were worried he would relapse and I felt like I would have been responsible for it, so this is just incredibly frustrating. I feel so hurt and just angry. So I guess my question is, guys, am I the asshole? And how the hell do I respond to this invitation? I am an open book, so if you'd like any more information, I will give it to you. There's tons of details, just ask and I will respond. Thank you so much for your time and reading my post. Stories number 30. My parents are lying to me. I know I'm adopted. I found out last night from a 23andMe test that I'm most likely adopted, or my biological dad isn't my dad at the very least. Not enough info on mom's side to be 100% sure. I honestly always had my suspicions, like the lack of pregnancy photos with my mom, who is obsessed with taking photos of everything, and a birth certificate with a different name on it that my brother found of his. When I found out she went on a backpacking trip to Europe when she was supposedly 7 months pregnant with my brother and I was 1 year old and the pictures of her looked like she wasn't pregnant, this is what caused me to get a test. I got one for my brother, but he backed out at the last minute for certain reasons I won't get into. He says he is over them though, and is going to get one now. I got the results of the test late last night, and I have a great-grandfather on my dad's side who isn't supposed to be my great-grandfather or supposed to be alive, but is actually alive and well. I also have an aunt, a few half-aunts and half-cousins, and a couple cousins I never knew existed and I don't recognize any of the names. My dad's family was also all boys, so none of this makes sense. I asked my parents to take a DNA test and they refused, so I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know what to feel. So far I guess I feel a lot of shock and a good bit of anger. I just want to say that I realize now that my dad could have different bio parents and not realize it. But that is the only explanation based off the genetics in the 23andMe profile. I am not giving out all the info on why adoption seems likely BC. It's a lot of details, but both my brother and boyfriend and I heavily suspect it. I am happy for the support I was given, no matter how small it was, in the comments. Thank you, it helped me realize that there are still a few alternative options. I just wanted to edit to say that part of my brother's genetic results came back. He is 25% Italian. We have no Italian in our family and I am 0% Italian. But that's not even the most damning part. Our maternal haplops are different. I looked it up, and this means that we have different moms. I am going to take an ancestry test to try to find out more about my biological family's history. Thanks to everyone who was kind and helpful. To everyone who says it's NBD, that's what I thought too until it actually happened to me, and now it has actually affected me a lot. Comments: the parents that raised me aren't on there. It's other relatives, like my great-grandfather that isn't supposed to be alive but actually is, and none of the last names match mine. I was lucky enough to get into contact with my half-cousin, who funnily enough is actually an egg donor, and that's why she's on there, and she has the whole family tree mapped out going back to the 1800s, and there's no relation to any of the relatives I know or my last name. And she has like 30 last names on her family tree if you go just backwards. No, just found out last night, like for 100%. My parents told me they were my birth parents my entire life, and I'm pretty sure from the 23andMe relatives list, they lied about it. All the relatives I have on 23andMe don't match up with the family that I grew up with. None of any the last names I know of match. Or the history. For instance, I don't have any half-aunts, and my grandparents and great-grandparents on my dad's side have been dead a long time. But on 23andMe, it says one is alive and was active 6 months ago. Thank you for the kind words though, I know it will work itself out eventually, it's just disappointing and shocking, you know. But I've been telling myself affirmations all day today that I will get through this, haha, and the problem is my great-grandfather shouldn't be either one of my great-grandfathers either. But my brother is going to do a DNA test too, so hopefully in a month we can figure it out. Also, everyone in my family is from Kansas, but everyone in my family tree is from Oklahoma City, which is ironically where my parents lived 2 years and the city I happened to be born in. So I so far have an aunt, 2 half-aunts, a great-aunt, a great-grandfather, a couple half-cousins, and a cousin on there. And that's not including the distant ones. So I'm just confused BC. I don't have any aunts on my dad's side, it was all boys. But I just thought of something which is that giving me pause, which is what if my dad is the one that isn't related to his dad and he doesn't know it? That's kind of the only reasonable alternative explanation. Yeah, I realize that now. I was super emotional and confused when I wrote that, hence why I went to the Off My Chest subreddit looking for advice. I didn't realize I would get such bad responses when I really just wanted advice and reassurance on where to go from here. I also posted in the adoption subreddit and got much better responses, where they cleared a lot of things up for me. Now I definitively see what all the scenarios could be, and I think I have a couple ideas of how to go forward. Basically, there are 3 options. My dad is not my bio dad, my mom and dad are not my bio parents because of my family tree. My dad could be the one that has a dad that is not his bio dad. So basically, I am going to proceed more carefully as I wouldn't want to upset my dad by revealing a secret to him he might not want to know. My brother is also getting a test to see if we are related. Ick, what do you think of that as an idea? Yeah, I don't hate my parents, but I'm not gonna lie, I did totally jump to conclusions based off of what we all kind of suspected. The comment section here mostly calmed down luckily, and in the adoption section they were super helpful and helped me see there are alternatives. It was just a huge shock to see all these people related to me, like aunts and cousins that I didn't know I was related to. But there are a couple explanations, and getting my brother's DNA should help. I'm not hell-bent on tearing my family apart, doing a big truth reveal, seeking attention, and there is no need to feel bad for my brother. Those things are not objective, they are subjective, and people actually do not know. What would be objective is saying that I jumped to conclusions, due to evidence, which I did. I want to also note that what you just said in your comment was not mean. What others have said has indeed been both subjective and mean, and ick how many down votes I get, people actually don't know those things objectively for certain. I agree with you. My brother is taking the test BC, my parents are refusing. What I am disagreeing in the above comment is the end part that is absolutely an opinion that has nothing to do with the DNA test. Well, to update you, my brother's test showed that our maternal haplops were not the same, therefore we weren't related. I confronted my mom again and she finally told me the truth. My brother and I are both adopted. Update: I found out, at 30, through 23andMe, that I was adopted. I confronted my parents and they admitted, finally, that both my brother and I are actually adopted. They told me my birth story and apparently both my brother and I were born to teen moms. My mom was connected to me and it was an open adoption and she kept in contact for a couple years, but my brother's mom not so much. After my parents' disclosure of my bio mom's name, I told my second cousin and she knew who my bio mom was. The names and situation ended up completely matching up. I guess my adoption was not a secret at all in their family. My cousin said she would reach out to her to see if she wanted to talk to me at all. But yeah, I'm nervous. I know there is a good chance she won't want to talk and I will just have to get to know my extended family and accept what it is. But I'm secretly hoping so much that she wants to talk to me. Has anyone been through this before? How did it work out for you? Comments by OOP: yeah, to be honest, this isn't the worst thing my parents have done, so I'm not even that surprised. LMAO. If you don't laugh you will cry. I just feel, on top of everything, fucking embarrassed that my entire family knew and lied to me my entire life. Everyone knew but my brother and I. That is the part that makes me the most angry. Like, my parents said, we just didn't tell you because nothing was different, Katie. Like, it just sounds like a lame excuse to me, to lie to me for my entire life about something so important. And of course, they are, and always will be, my parents. But I have other family too and an entire different genetic history that I fucking deserve to know about. For instance, I didn't get the NIPT genetic test done while I was pregnant with my daughter because there were absolutely no genetic issues whatsoever in my family. Well, that's not true at all. I have no idea. And that's just one example. I'm just trying not to think about that part of it because it makes me so upset. Trying to focus on the fact that I now know my birth mom's story. When my parents told me, it was like I could feel what my bio mom was feeling and I started crying, and I don't usually cry. It was the strangest thing. But it was like I knew before I was actually told what her feelings were about me and the situation. I know that sounds crazy, but it is what I felt. I am focusing on the fact that my bio grandmother painted me and my mom a beautiful painting of a girl with red hair right before she died, and my adoptive mom just showed me today. I will treasure that painting forever no matter what happens from all this. So yeah, all in all, I am trying to stay positive, but it is hard not to be anxious and angry as well. So I did get the number from my cousin, and messaged her myself. It was kind of a long message though, where I told her my name and birthday, that I just found out I was adopted via 23andMe, and had been talking to / had found out via my cousin that was on 23andMe already. I said I would love to talk to learn more about her and for her to learn more about me, but I also know she has her own family now and that she might not be ready to or want to talk to me for many different reasons and totally understand that. I also told her I've enjoyed getting to know about myself already through 23andMe / my cousin, and told her I saw a picture that her mom made for me for the first time that I really loved and appreciated. Was that way too much? I sent this before everyone gave me the advice to keep it very short and sweet. It's all just been so emotional for me, to be honest. Yes, she just messaged me back, love. She basically said that she is shocked and needs to process this, understandable, and that she is at work RN and would talk to me tonight. So hopefully we will get to connect. From what I hear from other family, she is a kind person, so hopefully it goes well, fingers crossed. As soon as the child can comprehend words. I would have wanted to know from the start. This is also what all the research on the matter clearly shows. Children are able to integrate the idea of adoption into their personality much more easily than adults who have already developed a completely different identity. Obviously, it is okay to sugarcoat things for children. Like, please don't tell 2-year-old me that my birth father didn't even want to see me after I was born and that he sold the engraved watch with my name on it that was given to him by my adoptive parents. And yes, that apparently did happen, lol. But big lies about where a child comes from, and getting the entire family to lie to them for their entire life? No, that is not good. I feel like everyone was in on an inside joke that was my life, but me. And also, I hate to think of what this is going to do to my brother eventually, who is also adopted. He doesn't know yet. My brother is much different and more sensitive, and he has said multiple times that if he finds out he is adopted, he will completely self-destruct and never talk to my parents again. This all could have been avoided had my parents just told us casually when we were younger. Also, I decided to pass on this prenatal genetic testing for my daughter because I thought I knew my family history. That could have had lasting consequences for both me and my daughter because we don't know our genetic background at all. These are just a couple examples of the very real consequences of doing this. This all has also been a lot to process as an adult and has kind of changed my life. I didn't think it would to the extent it did. But when reality hits, it's honestly completely different than you would ever imagine it to be, I promise you. My adoptive parents will forever just be my real parents to me. No matter what happens with my bio mom, they wanted me and my brother, but couldn't have bio children. Yes, they lied, and this isn't the first time they have lied about something big just to avoid talking about a difficult topic. But they are still my parents. I know that they both love me, and I know my dad especially loves me unconditionally. I just have this knowing deep down that I was better off with my adoptive, real, parents, despite everything I did go through in my family, and despite me being upset with them over this whole thing. TLDR, you should tell them immediately. Me finding out at 30 has had lasting consequences, it has not been very fun. Despite this, my adoptive parents are my real parents and I will always see them that way. Update 2 I mostly found out through 23andMe. I first did the test on myself 2 months ago, and it came back with a completely different family line. I was so freaked out, because I had honestly been suspicious from the start, so I confronted my parents. Unfortunately, they continued to lie to me. Another red flag is my parents had been completely against me getting the test even to begin with. To settle the matter, I took advice from Off My Chest, see my last post, and my brother did the test right after my results came back. His results came in yesterday, and I saw that we had a different maternal haplop. This means we are not related by mother. His family tree also did not match mine or my parents. My parents were upset when they had found out my brother got the test and wanted me to shut the test down, but I did not want to do that until I at least saw his results first, and I did in fact make sure I was first to see them before he did. When I saw the shocking results, I then paused the account, essentially, until I at least could figure this out with my parents. I confronted my parents, again, and they finally told the truth. Long story short, they were infertile and they adopted me and my brother from teen moms after a failed round of IVF. I won't get into the details, but the story of both me and my brother's adoption honestly explains so much of my life, it's crazy. I found my birth mom immediately because I had already been talking to my cousin and I said my bio mom's name and she recognized it immediately. I sent her a message, and it turns out I have so many other half-siblings, just on my mom's side. I have been talking to my half-sister who is pretty close in age to me as well. They all said they were waiting for this moment their entire life and said so many sweet things and I literally cried throughout the day. It was so emotional. So I am going to keep talking to them and see where things go. Hopefully we can become close eventually. Despite all this, and all the lies and bullshit where my entire family knew about this and lied my entire childhood and adult life, and despite the fact that I'm not happy with my parents, they are still my parents. I feel awkward on the etiquette of names for my bio mom, and I do hope I can become close with her, but my mom is always going to be my adoptive mom. Weirdly enough, this almost affirms that they really, truly, wanted me in a weird way. I know deep down my mom is worried she would be replaced, or have competition for the role of mom, and that's part of the reason they didn't tell me. But that's definitely not true. It would be lovely to connect with my family of origin and have them be part of my close family though, and I am excited about the possibilities but also trying to keep my expectations low. I didn't have finding out I'm truly adopted at 30 years old and meeting my birth family on my 2025 bingo card, but I'm here for it and it's actually become more and more positive of an experience. Comments, thank you, I really appreciate your comment. It's been quite the journey, but I feel like my daughter, who is little, is going to potentially have so much more love in her life and I'm excited for where this journey takes me. At the very least, I can tell her all about where she comes from and who her biological grandmother is. It turns out my bio grandma even made me a painting and gave it to my parents before I was born and it is very beautiful. She died shortly after I was born, so that is something I will now treasure forever. About their brother we have not told him yet. I guess he forgot the password anyways, but never asked me to help him get access to the account. I think he subconsciously doesn't really want to know. So as long as he doesn't really want to know, my parents and I have decided to let sleeping dogs lie. The test is there when he wants it, and then when he asks for the info we will tell him. There are other reasons for that as well. Personal family issues. And no, I don't know if it's the right answer to do that, but I honestly believe it's the best one with everything going on. It just becomes so much more difficult to tell a person news like this the older they become, doesn't it? That is why everyone tells parents to tell their children right from the get-go. That's your opinion. And I disagree. I'm not going to force my brother to look at his results when he's not ready, mentally or emotionally. Also, because of what you just said I just asked my brother, do you want to know the 23andMe results right now, to be 100% sure of what I already knew, and he said, no. He said he isn't emotionally ready, but will be in a month or two if he is still doing well. Do you want me to force it on him? Like, seriously? I'm sorry about that, but honestly it sounds like you took everything in stride. And the way I see it, is our parents desperately wanted us and love us, for them to have gone through everything they had to go through to adopt us. Do you know the arduous process of adoption and money it takes to save to just get to a place where you can even try to adopt a baby? My parents went through so much trying to find babies they could raise as their own. And through all our issues, even throughout our adulthood, they never stopped unconditionally loving and supporting us. So obviously we were extremely wanted. Also, both my brother and I's bio moms were 16 and homeless. We were actually loved by them too, and they haven't forgotten us. I know this about my brother's mom too, as I guess she tried to reach out to my brother when he was 13 on Facebook, but my mom found the message and deleted it immediately. My heart actually hurt for him and her when I found that out. You can go ahead and put a negative perspective on my biological parents wanting to give me to a family that loves me more than anything and can actually support me, but I am sorry I just can't. I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm grateful for simply not appreciating that my parents lied, and got my entire family to lie, to my brother and I about being adopted for our entire lives. Ungrateful for still immediately saying, it's okay, we will get through this together, know you will always be my real parents that raised me. Interesting take from my experience, from just reaching out in an adoptee Facebook group a few days ago, which I recommend doing. I guess this process on all ends can take time. It is totally normal to fear reaching out to bio family because you have absolutely no idea who will greet you on the other end, and if that greeting will be friendly. I would say that if she does decide to ever reach out, which it is good she is in touch with herself about what she can handle right now, she should take it slowly and definitely have a support system of people that understand. I just joined a FB group of adoptees going through reunions, and there is basically every type of possible reunion story on there so you would never feel alone. I think it is actually totally normal that she is taking her time, waiting until if or when is ready. Some people just don't have the desire to try to reunify. Being in touch with yourself about what you can handle is healthy, and looking back, I kind of wish I had waited a bit, even though my birth family has been so nice to me. It just has been almost too much to process all at once. I also would want to say that people can change as well. My parents said that my brother's birth mom wasn't attached to him at all during her pregnancy and after he was born, but she actually tried to reach out to him when he was like 13 on Facebook to make a connection and my parents deleted the message. She was just a teen who was homeless when she got pregnant, and she grew and matured and also probably realized there was a lot of trauma/disassociation that happened on her end as well, I can only surmise. So yeah, it's kinda like a box of chocolates, you never know what you are going to get, and that is, I think, almost always going to be scary for us. Who wants to get rejected twice? It sounds like she might not be ready yet, and that's okay, but if she wants more info, definitely tell her about the group called Adopted Adults Support Group on Facebook. They are great. Stories number 31 Aita because I won't allow the partner of my best man to the small wedding room. Hello there, it's hard to fit it in the title so here's the situation. 2 days ago I got a message from my best man in which he literally demanded that his partner should be in the wedding room with us. For context, the room in which the wedding takes place can only hold 20 people due to fire safety regulations. We already had to make a huge cut because we wanted all of our 30 guests in this room because it is an important moment, but we are already at 19 people and those consist mostly of the family. The aunts and uncles of my fiancé already need to wait outside the room. Even the partners of the best woman, is this the right term, for my fiancé needs to wait outside and the partner of a friend of ours also has to wait outside. Both my fiancé and I have one person each on this room because those are lifelong friends of ours, but somehow my best man has the audacity to demand that his partner, which I only saw once and have no real connection with, should be in with us but the family of my fiancé should not. He even argumented that we, my fiancé and me, don't accept his partner, which is complete BS, and that this lack of acceptance is the reason his partner isn't invited. This whole thing went so far that yesterday my fiancé and I had a huge fight over this situation, because I wanted to work it out with my best man and my fiancé wanted to sort it out immediately. This went so far that I am actually considering if I did something wrong, hence this post. I hope you're understanding what I wanted to say since English isn't my native language. Edit. I should have mentioned it at the beginning, but yes, I am from Germany and here in Germany you have to go to a registration office, Standesamt. In this room where you only sign the marriage, there is normally not much room for too many quests. So it is often organized like this. A few selected people go inside the room and witness the ceremony and afterwards the bride and groom go outside and get welcome and celebrated by the rest of them. Afterwards the whole group goes to an event location of some sort and celebrate the marriage there. Stories number 32 Aita for saying dishwashing is unskilled labor. I've been seeing this girl for 3 months who I'm pretty into. She's a professional chef, hot, and basically a badass. She smokes pot and drinks a lot more than me, but other than that I have no complaints. She's very assertive because she has to be in her line of work, and luckily I'm into that, if you know what I mean. She works at an upscale bar, hence the drinking, where the food is really important, and she's super talented, so her dishes get written up in our local media, which is so cool. It feels a bit like dating a celebrity when we go out because she seems to know all the industry people and we get free drinks and stuff. The problem came up when she was complaining about her job, which she does a lot. She says her boss is unsupportive and won't hire more help for the kitchen. Right now she does almost everything herself, so her hours are crazy long and she's stressed all the time. I agree it doesn't make sense to be so short-staffed because it seems like the bar is always busy and they make good money. The owner is an old-school boomer guy who thinks she's overreacting, or so she says. I don't like feeling helpless when she complains about work, so I offered to help wash dishes one night so she wouldn't have to work until 3 a.m. and we could go out. I made a lot of money in tech and retired early, so I have some time on my hands. She looked surprised and laughed and said, "Thank you for the offer." I was kind of hoping she would turn me down, but the way she said it was kind of patronizing, so I pressed a bit. She went into professional mode and asked if I'd ever washed dishes before. I said, yes, obviously, but not in a restaurant or anything. Now she looked really annoyed and asked why I thought I could just jump in and wash dishes without any experience. I laughed at this and said anyone could wash dishes. Teenagers do it as their first job. She got offended and said I didn't understand the realities of kitchen work because it's not easy and dishwashers are the most important person in the restaurant. I thought that was a huge exaggeration. I worked at a Wendy's in high school and it's the same damn skill set. What she does is skilled, but washing dishes is not skilled labor. She said, there's no such thing as unskilled labor, and I'd take you up on your offer if I thought you wouldn't mess up service. I thought that was really rude and misguided. No such thing as unskilled labor. Are you kidding me? And told her so. She told me I was condescending and presumptuous, and she gets enough of that from her boss. The date was awkward for a while until she smiled and changed the subject, but now I can't stop wondering if her boss doesn't have a point about her overreacting. Aita Reddit, she specifically said she needed a dishwasher. I didn't just pick it because I thought it was easy. Sorry, that was unclear. Edit 2, all she said by way of explanation was I'd get run over. I asked what made it skilled, and she said I was starting a bigger conversation that she didn't want to have right then while she was upset and not entirely sober. Fair enough. Top comment, commenter 1. She, an experienced chef, told you that dishwashers are the most important person in the restaurant. You, who haven't worked in a food establishment since high school, are discounting her experience. You worked at a Wendy's which has a fixed menu, doesn't serve food on plates with flatware and uses paper cups. Dishwashing at a fast food restaurant is not the same as at full-service restaurant. Your attempt to wash dishes would disrupt service at your date's restaurant. Fitting in with a team of workers and know what to do is a key part to running a successful restaurant kitchen. Washing dishes may be a humble position, but it's absolutely crucial to the running of the kitchen. It's similar to engine oil in a car, you don't realize how crucial it is until the engine seizes. You are dating someone who works full-time in a professional cooking environment and you responded as condescending AH. OP, commenter 2. There are practically no jobs that a person can jump in and do without training. That is what she meant by no job is unskilled labor. You're a snob. You made it worse by continuing along with your insistence of demeaning a job that she finds extremely important. Without proper dishwashing, she can't do her job. She can't plate on dirty or improperly cleaned dishes. She values her dishwashers. You could learn a little respect and not look down on jobs that you feel are beneath your high level. Update 1. After reading through some more comments I started to worry I'd really screwed things up and I didn't want to wait until tonight to apologize. She didn't text me this morning to confirm our date like she usually does and I had a bad feeling. I reached out and apologized for mansplaining something she obviously knew more about and explained I was hurt by her patronizing response to my offer to help. She apologized and thanked me again for the offer, explaining she thought I was joking and never would have reacted that way if she'd known it was being sincere. She apologized for complaining so much and explained that it wasn't always a crisis situation but the bar has doubled its business in the last year and now she's burning out. The situation with her boss is stressing her out even more than anything. She's approached him several times and he keeps brushing her off. It's almost hard to believe a business owner could be so in denial, but I feel really bad that I reminded her of him. I asked if we could talk about the skilled versus unskilled labor argument tonight and she said, is it okay if we don't? Things were going so well. I'm kind of frustrated by this because she made such a big deal out of it, but I'll respect her wishes. Final update: this has been a lively discussion and not how I expected to spend my day. I appreciate all the information about dishwashing and the support from people who saw my perspective. I got some really kind DMs, and some weird ones. For everyone who said YTA, you'll be glad to know she broke up me. Yeah, I was an on purpose at the end there, but it was cathartic and I think you'll agree she had it coming. Enjoy this absurdity. Her, I have to cancel tonight. I'm sorry for the short notice. I don't feel up to going out. Me, this is because about the labor thing, isn't it? I'm sorry for asking so many questions. I really want to understand you better. Her, no, it's because you think it's about that. You keep demonstrating that you're not listening to me. We clearly have communication issues and it shouldn't be this hard to understand each other at this stage. That's no one's fault. Me, we don't have communication issues. You don't like to explain your assertions after you get called out on them. You need to understand when you call someone incompetent you're going to have to back it up. So you're not just canceling dinner, this is a breakup. I thought you could have held out a little longer to tell me in person. That would have been the decent thing to do. Her, I never said you were incompetent or even implied it. You're putting words in my mouth. You interrogate me and won't listen to my answers. You assume the worst interpretation of everything I say. Look, I'm sorry. I thought this was the best way to do this and I'm sorry if I was wrong. I figured it's only been a couple of months and I didn't want to make you drive all the way from location. We could still meet up if you want to talk. Me, you implied it. I mean, I thought you would have held out for one more free dinner. Blocked and good riddance. Final comments. Commenter 1: it seems like you actually despise your now ex. I'm glad she broke up with you. Next time, maybe you should actually like the person you are with. Reply: I don't despise her. I am angry and I have a right to be. She looks down on white-collar workers and resorted to insults and name-calling when we disagreed. I still respect her, but she didn't treat me well. Commenter 2: YTA, judging by your snarky response of thinking she would have held out for one more free dinner, no, you do not respect her. You claim she looks down on white-collar workers when the reality is the opposite. You look down on the blue-collar job of washing dishes as something anybody could do, and refuse to listen to any explanation as to why you were wrong, just as you accused her of doing. Your projection here is absolutely insane and you are beyond TA in this situation. Reply: as I did in the original conversation, as many people have pointed out, I only gave her what she gave me. If she is an to me, of course I'm going to be an to her. I'm not proud of myself, but it did feel good to dish it back, so to speak. Reply: thank you. If the YTAs had a stronger majority I might take their word for it, but it's not that close. It's not too much to ask to have civil conversations with people who don't lash out at me when I ask them to explain their position. That's basic respect. Commenter 2: people keep explaining their position, and then you keep pretending they don't exist and saying things like, if only the YTAs had a stronger majority. That's why people are lashing out. It's frustrating to get asked for your opinion, give it, and then get ignored, multiple times. Reply: I didn't ignore anyone, I just disagree. It sounds like her kitchen is an especially bad place to be a dishwasher and I should have been more enthusiastic in my offer, but I'm far from convinced I was an for offering help or to believe that unskilled labor exists. Edit: I meant she lashed out at me when we disagreed, not people here. It's Reddit and not my GF, so I expect it here. Stories number 33 AIO for packing up and leaving after my mom read my diary. Last week, I found out my mom had read my diary. For context, I'm 22 and still living at home while saving up for my own place. I keep my diary private, it's where I write about my thoughts, feelings, and some very personal stuff I don't share with anyone. I accidentally left it out on my desk before going to work, and when I got home, my mom confronted me about something I wrote, specifically about feeling like she was too controlling. When I asked how she even knew, she admitted to reading my diary, claiming she was worried about me and needed to check if I was okay. I told her that was a massive invasion of my privacy, but she insisted that because it's her house, she has the right to know what's going on with me. I was so upset that I packed a bag and went to stay with a friend for a few days. Since then, she's been texting me non-stop, apologizing but also justifying her actions. Now my aunt is involved, telling me I overreacted and should let it go because my mom was just trying to look out for me. I haven't responded to any of them because I feel really hurt and don't know what to say. So, am I overreacting for leaving and going no contact for now? Should I have handled this differently?